And welcome back to the Late for Load In podcast, a long overdue return to the podcast. And I'm going to go ahead and take full credit for us falling off schedule. I apologize about that.
I've been trying to tell you guys that this guy kind of sucks, but nobody has really wanted to listen.
I can't even fight back against that. I deserve that wholeheartedly. This European tour is a little bit more chaotic than I was anticipating going into it, and it got the best of me. So I apologize. We are on track to get back to weekly releases starting today. So this, I believe, is going to come out on a Monday, which we normally do Wednesdays. But so after this week, we'll go back to every Wednesday. I apologize. That shouldn't happen again.
If y'all knew the amount of tears that have been shed
by
between the last of you.
Oh,
I have thought about emailing Kleenex and trying to get you an endorsement, but you know, I'm holding back on the right moment.
That's messed up.
I think you may be worthy though.
That's messed up.
At this point in time.
I deserve it, but it's still messed up.
I'm just trying to help a brother out.
That's fair. Anyway, well, now that we're back, let's get into this week's guest, and it is the one and the only Mr. Danny Worsnop of Asking Alexandria, and this was a whirlwind of an episode. I didn't really know anything about Danny prior to going in this, outside of just all of the great stuff that the guys in my band have said about him, just because they had a really great experience touring with Asking not long before I joined the band, and I know all the guys in my band love Danny, so this was a treat for me getting to get to talk to him and get to know more about his story, because I think a lot of people know just the overarching this overarching idea of Asking Alexandria as a band, like, you know, like kind of like the modern day Motley Crue, like troublemakers that they were when they were, you know, early on in their career. And you know, there's a lot more to Danny as a person than like that. I don't know, I guess for lack of a better term, the character that everybody imagines as the frontman of Asking Alexandria.
I've been fortunate enough to get to know Danny on a personal level for a lot of years. We did, with Motionless, we probably did 5 or 6 of the Asking tours in their heyday. But we're also business partners in Asesinato Tequila. We own that together, and that's a really exciting venture. So I was excited about having him on because it was exciting for me, for you, someone else who's super close to me, to get to know him on that level.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's there. There's so many more layers than I think most people get to see of him, just because of you know, I think as he's gotten older, he's become a little bit more private about his personal life, you know, as he's like matured and gotten a bit older and just kind of figured out what it is that he wants in his life. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's so many more layers than people think when they think Danny Worsnop. So it was really cool to kind of you know, unravel that a bit and kind of get to kind of the core of who Danny is just as a person, even outside of the band.
Something special about Danny too is even when Danny was in his crazy party days where he probably didn't even know where he was, his heart was always pure, and he was always such a good dude. Even at, we talk a little bit about when he was in his harlot days, you know, he was, my brother was out there in those days. And even through all that, he still was always, he stayed kind and I mean, for the most part, and you know, kept a good heart. It was interesting for me I knew this, but I didn't remember the fact that you guys broke the Asking bus.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. And it's something that I forget what other, I guess it was Andrew's episode. We talked a bit about the bus, and I think we might even mention how the bus had a studio in it. And I was kind of hesitant. I thought about bringing it up then, but I didn't know how the Asking guys would feel about that, because I don't blame the Asking guys. It's not their fault by any means, but I didn't want anybody to hear that story and somehow help bring it up. But when Danny brought it up, I was like, well, yeah, now that it's out there, I'll go ahead. But yeah, the bus that we were in when we got in the accident was in fact the Asking Alexandria studio bus. It's pretty wild.
It was. Yeah,
very crazy.
Did many tours with that bus on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, what I imagine probably a couple of you are coming here to hear about is, you know, Danny. He's been a part of many a controversy in different ways, but recently he got caught up in some stuff surrounding a recent Warped Tour performance that I think a live stream audio error kind of maybe misrepresented what may have actually happened at Warped Tour for all the people who saw the show in person. And unfortunately, Danny got just caught in the crossfire of all of, you know, what the internet does with taken any small bit of information and running and twisting it how they will. And you know, it was nice to hear Danny's you know, response to all of that, and I think it's interesting to be able to hear from him what it feels like to be on the receiving end of that kind of stuff. You know, it's not awesome, and I think that that's something. I think people forget that there are actual human beings on the other side of the words that they're typing into the internet.
Right.
That their words are affecting. You know what I mean?
It's something that I wish people would pay a little bit more attention to, and I wish that people would take that into account before that they said some of the things that they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially now, I mean, there's so many people who have been, some rightfully so, but there's others that have been victim to the cancel culture side of things that are just, you know, like in Danny's situation, he doesn't deserve this shit.
Right.
It did mean a lot to me though that him and I spoke and you know, he felt like of all platforms and all places to go to give his response, he felt like this show was a safe space for him, and it is, and it was, but it meant a lot to me personally. You know, like I said, we have a business relationship, we have a long-standing friendship, but it meant a lot that he felt like this was a safe space.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's extremely humbling and an honor that he would feel that way. And just for anybody who is hearing this and thinking maybe we gave, you know, that this is like a softball, like PR safe space for him to come, like, you know, we did bring up some concerns that fans were voicing about this stuff, and Danny was very self-aware and very honest and owned up to things where he felt like maybe he fell short in the past, that could maybe have skewed maybe some people's opinions about maybe where he stood with his passion towards the band. And you know, I think that this is a very transparent and like eye-opening conversation. And yeah, like you said, I just feel really thankful that he felt comfortable to come here and have a chat about it. And on top of that, just kind of opening up about his journey from being that 17-year-old kid who moved countries away from his family and friends with no promise of anything, no label, no manager, nothing. Him and Ben just up and moved to the other side of the world and lived out of an RV in New Jersey. You know,
I don't want to spoil it, but man, hearing some of those stories about their early days was so crazy.
Yeah.
And one thing he doesn't even know if his band knew ever happened.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot to this episode. It's not just about drama. We don't want this to be a gotcha drama kind of podcast. This is a place for people to come and talk about their journey through life that gets them to where the point that they are today when we're speaking to them. And, you know, we just had to cover the Warped Tour thing because it is part of his journey. And so, yeah, on that note, I hope you enjoy this really, really awesome episode with our good buddy, Danny Worsnop of Asking Alexandria.
Blame Chris for the delay.
It's my fault. This episode of Late for Load-In is brought to you by Rockabilia.com, your go-to destination for 100% official band merchandise. No bootlegs, no cheap knockoffs, just authentic gear straight from the bands you love. From metal and punk to classic rock and beyond, Rockabilia has over 500,000 items in stock. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, patches, and even rare, hard-to-find collectibles. If you're looking for something exclusive, Rockabilia drops brand new limited edition merch every month. So if you see something you like, grab it before it's gone. And in fact, we just placed an order for some new merch ourselves. I picked up a very, very cool Linkin Park Meteora hoodie. Josh, did you grab something?
Yeah, I grabbed a couple things. I got a super limited Eminem tour shirt, and then what you mentioned not missing out. I saw a Meatloaf tour shirt from 2005 that I really, really wanted. Unfortunately, I didn't have my size, so I missed out on that one.
Well, there you have it. Don't wait. Our friends at Rockabilia are hooking up Late for Load-In listeners with 10% off when you use code LOAD at checkout. So if your band tee collection needs a refresh and you want to support the artists who make the music we love, hit up rockabilia.com, load up your cart, and drop in code LOAD, LOAD, for that sweet discount. Now let's roll today's show. Mr. Danny Worsnop, welcome to the Late for Load-In podcast. I appreciate you taking some time to be here, man.
Hi. I feel like this has been long overdue.
It's been way long overdue.
I'm actually surprised that it's taken a minor scale controversy for Josh to bug me to be on here.
Well,
Apparently, I'm ordinarily not interesting enough.
no, that's not true. There's just no better time than the present. So you know what? Might as well knock out two birds with one stone.
Yeah,
Not ordinarily interesting enough.
damn birds, you know.
You might be on par or for one of the more interesting people that I've ever met over the years. Chris,
I'll take it.
Chris, do you know that Danny has Air Bud's grandson
I do.
for a dog?
Air Bud, the famous dog actor.
Yes.
No
Yes.
shit.
Yes.
That's pretty fucking interesting.
That's what I'm saying.
I was doing a movie on a Disney set. It wasn't a Disney movie, but it was on one of their sets. It wasn't a big movie that's anyone's going to be like, I didn't know he was in that. But yeah, there were puppies, and it was kind of one of those cliche moments that everyone's like, you don't pick the dog picks you. But there were golden retriever puppies running around, and he was just locked on me. And it was, hey, I think that's my dog.
That's so that there were just dogs for sale on this Disney lot, and
they were using them for something, and they just brought puppies. So I think they were using the old. It wasn't the same movie, but I think they were using the older dogs, and they just had the puppies there. And
Crazy.
You bring puppies around a bunch of people, and people want to see the puppies.
Oh, naturally,
Of course.
Yeah,
But what are the chances it's Air Bud's
I know.
descendant? That's wild.
Well, and his grandfather was the original Air Bud. His mother was the girl dog from Space Buddies.
That's puppy royalty.
That's what I'm saying.
I rescued him from the fate of what happens to apparently many young Hollywood actors, and I rescued him from that.
You rescued him from a life of drugs and debauchery?
He could have been diddied for all we know.
Oh, God.
But he wasn't.
To be fair, I guess it's not out of the question, potentially. I don't really know, but...
we're gonna draw the line like, no, he wouldn't fuck a dog. We don't. I mean,
look, I don't know shit.
I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying.
Right.
It sounds like he's done everything else.
Right.
It seems like he's done everything else.
Wait, let's cover our asses here. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
And like, is that where we're gonna draw the moral line on his behalf?
No, I'm not willing to draw that line because I don't know enough about the guy.
I don't know anything about him. I'm learning it. I'm learning everything I know about P. Diddy outside of Get Him to the Greek in X and Instagram headlines. So
wait, is it okay to watch Get Him to the Greek now? Because Russell Brand also.
Is he canceled too?
What's he in trouble for?
I haven't seen this yet.
I'll let you guys dig into that later and figure it out yourselves. It's not awesome though.
Well, Danny, thanks for coming on. This is going to be a lot of fun. Me and Danny go way, 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 way back.
Yeah, was it my first? Were you on that first tour? The one with the Static Lullaby?
Yep, I think so.
My first tour ever.
And then I saw Sumerian made a post the other day with all these old tour ad mats, and it was like, I think we did like 5 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. And
you're gonna fill in some memory spots for me.
I probably have some. I got some. I probably have some golden images of you on my phone.
You've got a couple of my missing puzzle pieces.
I've got a.
Hi. Come here. You want to be involved?
There
Say
he is.
Hi. No,
there.
This is Freya. She's new.
Oh, okay.
She just turned 1.
I thought we were about to have a celebrity appearance.
No, he's a fat guy. He's not going to come up the stairs.
Respect. I feel.
What's he doing? Sleeping?
Yeah, 100%. Hi, you gonna leave me alone? Come
on. So I guess do we want to jump into the big stuff, or do we want to get a little bit of Danny backstory first?
I want to get the Danny backstory first. So
I think that's fair.
For the people who don't know of Danny or who Danny is, let's let them know who Danny is.
I'm an idiot they gave a microphone to, which was a huge mistake. I don't know. I feel like there's been so many different versions of Danny, and I can only
I'll agree with that.
I can only speak with any real conviction as to who he is now, and
I think that's fair.
Ever changing and ever evolving. I feel like I spent a long time trying to figure out who I was, and I think we all do. But growing up, and I say growing up, moving to a different country at 17 and trying to grow up on a tour bus while you've wrestled, trying to figure out how to how to grow up with quote unquote fame, and not the fortune side of it, just the fame bit. How to wrestle trying to become an adult was just made it ever more challenging. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm just a guy who likes guitars and microphones and telling stories and trying to gradually unfuck his brain. Yeah, I just like making art and sharing it with people.
Before you moved to the States, what was life like growing up in the UK, and you know, was music always around, or was it something that you found your way into later on?
It was always around, but not in I imagine a more non-traditional sense. Like my father liked music a lot, and he played in the car all the time. So that was kind of my introduction to music, and it's spilled over into my musical brain now, which is there's been a lot of probably what wasn't, but what felt like gotcha moments over the years, where it was like, what music did you grow up listening to? I was like, it was a lot of folk stuff and a lot of blues. My grandfather loved the blues. And I mean, I didn't know it was country at the time, but apparently there's a lot of country too. And it was like, oh, like who? I'm like, I have no idea. I have never been a student of artists or music. It was on, and I liked the sound of it, and it continued being on. And I'm still very much that way, where it's...
I mean, I feel like when you're a kid and you're first being exposed to that stuff, you don't have the thought process of trying to figure out who it, like,
who's this? Tell me all about him.
Right. There's so much that I like, you know, I always loved music. I didn't like find my passion for making it until, you know, I was a teenager or whatever, but music was always on, you know, like I was always listening to music with my mom and my dad, especially in the car. And there's stuff that, like, if it came on today, I could probably sing all the words, but I couldn't tell you who some of the artists are.
Yeah.
You know,
what kind of music was it that you get started out with your parents?
With my mom, it would be like 80s pop, occasionally 80s hair metal, and then like 80s and 90s country. And then my dad's the guy who got me into like Metallica and stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm always curious when it's kind of people who make heavier music, like whether it was a parent thing. Because I know so many who was like their household, like that didn't exist. I mean, it didn't exist in mine. So It was like my story of how I got into it's very non-traditional, but I'm always intrigued with like where that curve happens for people.
I had really young parents, so they were, I guess, maybe more quote unquote hip, you know, like they were listening to like the current stuff at the time. My parents were literally teenagers when they had me, so I think that played into me finding a maybe easier route into this side of the music world.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay, yeah, we're on the same age. I was thinking, I was talking to someone the other day. I was talking to Corey. It kind of came. So we ended up talking about how old we're getting, and he was like, "Yeah, I was
popular conversation these days.
It happens more and more every year." He was like, "Oh yeah, I was watching Love Island. It was terrible. They were talking about what kind of music they like, and they said they like vintage music, like Britney Spears."
I knew you were going to say something like that was going to hurt my soul.
And then I was like, Bon Jovi came out after I was born.
Does that make us vintage?
Yeah.
I think it does.
Fuck.
I think it does.
That back pain, we earned that.
Better to be vintage than old, though. I mean, I'll go with vintage all day.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I don't want to be the old guy. I'm fighting it.
We're getting there.
I know.
Also, I'll say this as someone who has known you for a very long time. You were an old guy when I met you.
Oh, hell yeah.
I have an old soul for sure. My wife says that all the time.
People think I'm a grumpy old man.
If we weren't on here right now, I will be in bed right this second.
Yeah.
Danny, I don't know if you know the history between me and Josh, but I've known Josh since I was 11 years old. We played in our very first band together ever. So I've known Josh for 24 years. He's always, even as a teenager, been a grumpy old man.
Yeah, he came out of the womb just Gran Torino.
100%.
That's my idol. If I could be that guy, that'd be my idol.
Yeah, get off my lawn. Get off my lawn.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't say the other words, everyone.
No. He won't say those words.
He didn't follow it up with the slur.
No. I'm trying to stay on the right side of cancellation. Trying to stay on the right side. What kind of kid was Danny? Was he wild? Was he quiet? Was he creative?
I was real quiet. I was creative. I started writing songs when I was very, very, very young. I was never a singer, but I liked lyrics. I wrote poems and they turned into songs. I was an enormous Michael Jackson fan. That was like my number one. That's where it started. The first song I ever wrote, I think I was like 5, maybe 6 years old. I don't know. I feel like I make up the age every time I tell the story because I don't remember what age it was. But I remember it years later going into my dad's office and he had it like pinned up on the wall. It's probably still there. I don't know.
They still live in the same house?
And well, no, it was at his work.
Oh, his office. You said that. Yeah.
And I went and I was reading it, and I'd basically taken Earth Song by Michael Jackson and rewritten it with only the kind of vocabulary a 6-year-old could pull into the equation.
Yeah, fair.
Improved to the only way a 6-year-old could. This is a really, really bad ripoff of it. But yes, I started playing violin and then trumpet at a very early age. And then I got an acoustic guitar when I was 12 years old, and the rest was history. Well, the rest wasn't history. I did that up until Ben was bugging me to be in Ask Alexandria, which didn't exist yet. We didn't know each other. He'd seen me on the internet. And yeah, I kept saying no. I had no interest at all. And then he said, come on, we're going to move to America. And I was like, crazy bastard, I'm in. Because that was my goal since as long as I can remember, and beyond that, apparently, it was I wanted to move to the US and make music.
What about the U.S.? Like what about that called to you?
I have no idea. I knew nothing about it. I'd never been, but I we'd stop at a gas station, and there were like those old newspapers, kids. There were this thing. It was like a book. Wait, no, it was like a
physical media. Oh wait, you don't know what that is either. Never mind.
It was like a Kindle. Look, it was like it was like a series of TikToks and
on paper.
Yeah, but they were like ones for real estate and like specifically international, like people buying holiday homes and stuff. And they were free, and I'd rip out all the American ones and just leave them around the house. I don't know why. I've always been an enormous movie fan and music fan, and I feel like everything I loved came out of the U.S. So maybe it was that. I have no idea.
Sure.
It was just something called me here. Maybe this was just where God needed me to be at some point in my life. Maybe it's now. We don't know. But,
well, I have a serious, potentially controversial question here.
Uh-oh.
If taking all this into consideration, how on the fucking earth can you say we speak English wrong?
I don't. I don't say that.
Everybody else does.
Listen, I'll buy us both plane tickets to Boston right now. We'll fill that harbor all the way up again, buddy.
That's incredible. So, how old were you when you moved over here with the guys then?
17.
That's crazy. And how did your family feel about that?
As much as I wasn't a crazy kid, I was I've always been just very driven and one-track minded, where it's like, nope, this is what I'm going to do.
Sure.
It was briefly intersected with I was going into the military, and then this happened. So I didn't, speaking to all my, friends and extended family who are or have been in the military, made the right choice. And I've worked closely with the active and veteran community a lot, and nothing but love and respect for them. But it's seeming like I made the right decision.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've done all right for yourself, my friend.
I've only been forced to crawl through the mud one time, and that was by Ultimate Warrior. So I've only had one drill sergeant for like 2 hours of my life.
That seems much more worth it to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just sliced my finger off the day before, so it got pretty messed up. I still don't feel it to this day, thanks to that.
Really?
That's crazy.
Interesting. I told you. What did I say in the beginning of this?
Interesting guy.
Yeah, I told you.
Interesting guy.
Lived 1,000 lives.
So your family basically just accepted that you were just going to do what you were going to do then, huh?
I've spoken to him, but I mean, we're not particularly close by anyone's measurement. But you know, I see him every few years when I play in England. And yeah, it's been brought up, and they're very much like, you said you were going to do it, so you were going to do it. We weren't going to talk you out of it. That wasn't an option.
An option, yeah.
So I've always just been very hard headed, and like I have a clear vision of what I want to do and who I want to be, or well, now who I want to be. But I've always had a very clear vision of what I wanted to do, and I just figure out how to get there.
Do you think they're proud of what you've accomplished?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen him in a few years now. I think no, that's not true. I saw him last year, briefly, and yeah. I mean, we have communication and we see each other now. There was a period of time where that wasn't a thing. not for any enormous reason that warrants digging
Yeah,
into.
sure.
But it was just kind of, some people just don't have that connection. And for most people, that's just a person in their life. I mean, it just so happened that mine was my family. It's not a whole to do, but.
Yeah, I think that there's this weird stigma that you have to be close with their family, and if you're not, it's weird. And it's like, well, if the relationship, and I'm not saying that this is how your relationship is, but like if the relationship isn't bringing positivity into your life, or it's not a fulfilling thing for everybody involved, you don't have to do anything, whether you're blood or not.
I feel like there's like a big misconception on that, because I and this may be an unpopular opinion, but like, just because you're related to me by blood doesn't mean shit to me. Like, if you don't make an effort to know me or my children or want to be a part of our life, then I don't owe you nothing just because we're family.
I actually agree with that. I actually really very much agree with that.
I think you disagree.
No. I
thought we were going to kick Danny off and go on a tangent.
No. I fully agree with where you're coming from.
It's weird. Like, sometimes I'd be like, "Oh, that's your cousin." Well, who gives a fuck? I don't know. I haven't talked to them since I was a toddler. Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I think. I mean, when it, I think it's something I've grown to understand. But there's a level of respect and appreciation that comes with a parent in that situation. But at the same time, it's still like, you can't force those kind of things. It becomes disingenuous, and then it's then it's kind of just making each other miserable for the sake of saving face or for appearances, and that doesn't benefit anyone.
And it becomes uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. So moved to a completely different country at 17 years old. You said you didn't know Ben. Did you know anybody in the band before they started asking you to join the band?
So yes, and kind of. No one else was in the band. It was just Ben.
Okay.
I was in college very briefly, and I was actually in college with Cameron and Sam. Ben and I started this band, or I guess technically I joined the band. Ben was already kind of working on stuff. And then it was like, well, we need to find a drummer. This guy Cameron was in a band with. I didn't know him, but I'd heard he's an incredible drummer. We went to a show, Stall James. And then it was time to record demos, because Ben and I had written like 3 songs. We'd written the vocals. We had an American singer who flew in. They turned him around at the airport, sent him right back out. I don't remember the story as to why. I think it was some immigration stuff. Like, not like he was deported, but he hadn't filled something out. So like, you can't come here.
Yeah, sure.
And then it was like, well, back to the drawing board. So we'd written these vocals, and we were going to demo them out to get people to audition to, so they knew how it went. And the idea was like, we were just going to take it in turns and just piece it together the best we could. Sure. Anyway, so I went in and I sang the final episode, and I came out, and Ben fired me. He said, well, you're not the guitarist anymore. And Cameron had driven James there. I don't believe James had a driver's license. So Cameron had driven him there, and he hated Ben and I because we stole his drummer. And we were just like, do you want to do it? Then he stopped hating us and he joined the band.
That's a crazy story.
And then their bass player hated us because we broke the band up, and we hired him too. And then
everybody wins. Everybody wins.
And then his dad didn't want him to be in the band. He thought it was stupid and that it wasn't ever going to make any money, and this was just a fever dream. Shipped him back to England, and Sam flew over. And then that's how Alexandria became Alexandria.
Did you know or have any idea that it was going to become what it became, or was it one of those things that you just wanted to be in a band with your, well, I can't say your friends, because you guys didn't really know each other like that. So, was the ultimate goal to take over the world?
If you were to ask us what the pinnacle was at the time, it wasn't. We never thought like, this is going to be the Beatles,
right?
Yeah.
It was like, this is going to be a really big, like, I say metal band now because that's kind of where it lives, but it would have probably been like, listen, one day we're going to sell like 1,500 tickets. We're going to sell out theaters.
Right.
That's as big as it got at the time. I mean, there was Slipknot. That was an exception. And I'm sure, I say I'm sure. There was obviously like the Korn and the Limp Bizkit and all that, but it was like, as like heavier bands went, like, there were a couple, and they were the anomalies. And I've over years learned that's still the case.
Yeah.
That is reality of it. But Yeah, in my head, I think, I don't know how long I thought it was going to last. I knew it got me to America, and I knew it got me into the music industry. And I think beyond that, we were just having fun. We didn't have any money. We didn't have phones because we couldn't afford them. And we just lived in a beat up old RV in a Walmart parking lot in New Jersey. And we'd walk across to the Starbucks, to plug a laptop in and use their Wi-Fi.
That's crazy.
And we lied to all the, so we got the other guys to move over. We told them that we had management, we had tours, we had a tour with the Devil Wears. No, the Devil's part of our date, remember, we told him we had a tour with. And we had all this stuff lined up, and we were talking to labels, and none of it was true. So we got, and then we got to the US, and we told all the labels we were big in Europe, because YouTube wasn't really a thing yet, and they had no, shy of getting on a plane and just going to every promoter in the country, they had no way of fact checking that.
Right. True. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Had you guys even played a show before you moved to America? Whoa.
We had 3 songs. Our first show was in Illinois.
Because when people think about, especially back then, a band from the UK relocates to the US, clearly they're big enough over there to justify doing that.
Yeah, Bring Me the Horizon had just kind of broken over here. So the labels were looking for the Rolling Stones to the Beatles.
Sure.
They're like, it's the British invasion again.
Right. Wow.
That's crazy.
I didn't know that.
We almost signed to Rise Records, and I'm forgetting right now if I ever told the band about this. This might be news to them.
Okay, right.
We were in the US for like a month, maybe 2 months, and I flew over to Arizona and tried out for the Word Live.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
We mutually decided like it wasn't the best fit in their words, the way they then relayed it to me, and then they brought up a few times over the years. We knew that this isn't where you were supposed to be. You were going to do something. You were going to do something more and something bigger than what we were doing was ever going to be. And we just had to let you go do the Danny thing. So yeah, I loved Craig Mabbitt. I didn't know Telly yet. Yeah. So then I was like, well, who got it? And they're like, it's this guy from Greeley Estates who's the bass player. I was like, what are you guys talking about? I don't want to live in New Jersey. It's warm here in Arizona.
That's true. So, wow, warm was probably something you weren't even used to coming from the UK to New Jersey.
Sunlight was something you wasn't even used to.
Right.
Sunlight, people smiling.
Yeah, right. I was going to ask if there was something that fans might not know about the early days, but I think you just gave it to them.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And potentially your band.
Yeah. we couldn't use the bathroom on the RV, so there's a lot of yards in the Beechwood, New Jersey area. Not a lot, but there's like three yards in the Beechwood, New Jersey area who for a while they had kind of a stray animal problem, and it was a big it was a big animal.
Giant dogs
shitting in the yard at night.
Jesus Christ, dude. That's crazy.
Pure animals.
So I guess you guys went on to do a bunch of work with Joey Sturgis. Did that come about after you guys eventually got signed to Sumerian, or did you go to Joey first?
We went to him first.
Okay.
That leads to the Illinois first show. So we managed to get in touch with him. I think it was Ben got in touch with him and was like, we want to just record some demos with you.
Which is a very smart move because he was the guy of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got that RV there and we recorded 3 demos. They're probably in the ether somewhere. So someone listening will be able to find them probably. And that was every song we had was those 3 songs. And maybe I found us some show and talked the promoter into putting us on the show because we were a big international act. On the way back, so as we returned to Illinois, we just pulled into this venue and we set all our stuff up. And I found footage of the show one time. And I actually, on a day off a few years ago, I rented a car and I drove Ben there with the band's video guy at the time. And we filmed this whole thing and I didn't tell Ben where we were going. And I just pulled into this random parking lot. There's like a doctor's office and a Chinese restaurant there. And I was like, hold on, I'm just going to pull in here real quick. And he's like, why does this look familiar? And he's walking around at like maybe 5 minutes and he's like, did we play here? and it's weird because we were in the parking lot and I instantly recognized it. I didn't even have to look at the map. And yeah, it was we played the first show, and we just played 3 songs to about 3 people.
That's crazy.
That's all we had. That wasn't the first. That wasn't the last show we played where we didn't have enough songs to play the show. I think we just played the 3 at that one.
Did you guys even own your own gear yet at this point?
So there was a small amp company, like a boot. I don't know if they still exist. They may do. There's a boutique amp company in New Jersey that we'd met at a local show. Not that we were playing. We'd go to shows to meet people, and yeah, we met them there. And again, we're a big international touring act, and they were called Somatone. And they made amps for the band. And I don't know what the drum kit situation was. I do not remember.
Wild.
Did Joey Sturgis think you were a big international act too?
I think he might have.
That is so fucking funny.
We got to get Joey on it at some point and ask him what he
hilarious.
thought, what his first thoughts of you guys was.
That is fucking funny.
Because after that, and after we did that with him, we were talking to Craig from Rise Records about signing it, and it was so close, and he backed out at the last minute. I forget why. But it was right after that. Sumerian came to the table, and initially, from the way I was then related, years later, Ash, the owner of Sumerian, he turned it down. He was like, "No, this band's stupid.
Really?
This is a flash in the pan. It's dumb." And Sean Keith over there, he went to bat and put his job on the line to sign the band, and it was a really bad deal, as most people's first deals are.
Yeah.
But on top of the bad deal terms, we also had to pay for half of the album.
Oh shit.
So it was like we had to figure out where to get that money from. So we were just playing pizza restaurants, and there was a bowling alley, and
Wherever.
yeah, VFWs, church halls.
I didn't consider the fact that you guys moved. How are you making money to live here?
You can't work here, right?
That-
Back then?
That was it. And listen, this is you can't say this now because organization will get called. But in the very beginning, those first 4, maybe 5 shows, we did not have visas, Josh.
Wow.
We were illegal immigrants. We were breaking the law.
Better hope somebody doesn't come retroactively get your ass.
You never know.
I'll back pay them the $19 on those tickets.
Perfect. Okay, good. You're good then.
So when you guys moved here, it must have been a culture shock, no?
I'll be honest, it's not as enormous of a difference as people assume it to be. You've been to Europe, so you know.
Well, yeah. But as kids, at that point y'all were kids, so
Yeah.
fuck, you're living in an RV in Jersey of all places. There had to be no rules.
No, there were no grown-ups.
That's what I mean. Like,
the first 10 years of our career, there were no grown-ups.
right.
And it was it was a lot of us trying to figure it out ourselves. And you give 5 kids that kind of freedom and control, and no real obligations other than you have to be on stage for 35 minutes.
This is a perfect segue into you guys found success incredibly young, and that added layer of no grown-ups. How did that change your world, professionally and personally?
It was very, very detrimental on a personal and personality level. First off, don't give that much attention to children. I can speak only for myself, and this is not going to be any breaking news for anyone. I did not respond well to that kind of popularity.
Yeah.
I was not a popular kid, and that went straight to my head.
Right.
I was the biggest star in the world in my head. But yeah, it's the biggest problem with it that I kind of pinpointed in reflection is that so much of our bad behavior was so strongly encouraged. Like, we look back now and we can look at things and be like, that was a little problematic. We were never like a problem, but it was like, it was not cool behavior. But it was, the whole time, it was the more outrageous shit that was said, the more immature and inappropriate the jokes were, the louder, the more stuff got broken. It was do more of that. That's awesome. And this is from, fans and from peers, where it was just like, this is so rock and roll. You got to be more, Danny, go harder. And it was,
It's like the Motley Crue mindset almost.
it is. And it's the peer pressure of it, but it's also the reward of it. It's like, you act out and there's no consequences for it.
Right.
It's your consequences. Like, here's 100 more people tomorrow.
Right.
And yeah, it's not a positive way to grow up, like mentally and emotionally and maturity wise. And that took a lot of massaging out over the years. I had to get real humble and real right with myself to get through that. And I feel like it's only semi recently I've fully done that. But yeah, there's a lot of hard habits to break when you're thrown into it like that.
Yeah, I can imagine. You said something to me once that was along the lines of being a good person. It's important to remember that you're human. Not everybody loves you, so don't act like they do.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying. That's what I feel like a lot of the current stuff is maybe a little bit of lesson from God, where it's like, hey, the first time around when you got successful the first time, like you did not respond to that well. Remember this.
I didn't start to like find any success until like in music until I was in my 20s, you know, so a little bit older, a little bit more time to like somewhat figure myself out beforehand. But I can't imagine. I know what I was like at 17 years old. I wouldn't have handled it any better. You know, like and now
it's all of those things. Every time you do the dumb thing, someone goes,
you get something
here's
more.
$1,000.
Right. Yeah. Dude, I would have been a fucking actual disaster. You know, I'm fucking embarrassed of the person I was before fucking 25, 26 years old, you know, like let alone being 17 years old and almost having all of the crazy stuff I do be rewarded, you know, like I would challenge anybody to like not fall into that trap. You know what I mean? Do you feel like it was all like happening way too fast? That like part of why it got out of control is just because of how fast that like fame and explosion was happening. Like there was no time for you to even be like, wait a second, like is all of this okay? You know what I mean?
There was no break pumping. There was also, I mean, the band did our first tour together, which will have been 2008, I think. And that tour, technically, as far as the calendar for us, ended like 3 or 4 years later. We were just on the road permanently. We were doing 300 to 350 dates a year. So it was, you know, one tour at end, and you've got 2 days to drive from California to New York to start the next one. So it was continuous. I mean, that's why it grew so quick, probably, at least attributed. But it's also cool. At no point between essentially homeless in a Walmart parking lot in New Jersey, can't afford a top-up card for a phone. That was back in the day for the younger people. You had to buy a card and then call a number and tell them the number on the card, and then your phone would have $10 on it. So from there up until I could buy a house now,
right?
There was no days off, and I remember this. There's this core memory of after that, and it was my first time having a break, and I've gone from that. You know, we've got a little bit of money. We've moved into a tour bus, moved to 2 tour buses. We have assistants. We have people like working for us, and the business is now a business, and we're still just idiots. That hasn't changed. But I remember just then going into the real world for the first time since Walmart parking lot, and I was at some restaurant. I was at like a Denny's or something, and I ate, and I just got up and walked out, and I didn't pay because I was used to someone putting a card down, and I just walked, and they were like, someone ran out, and I was like, this is gonna sound insane. I forgot I had to do that. It does sound insane, and that is ridiculous. But it's for the last 4 years, probably three of it. It's like, cool. We don't really have to worry about that right now. And then you go back into the real world, and then you're like, oh shit, I've grown up and learning how to be a functioning human to do. So yeah, that's when I don't know how my brain responded to it, but not well. I think that's when the extracurricular activities, drugs, really took an uptick, because it was like I'm so used to the road at that point. Like, I don't know how to function in the real world. I was just out of touch.
I struggle with that coming home from any tour, whether it's, 2 months or 2 weeks. It takes me a couple of days to reset into real life again.
It's a different life. It's almost it almost sometimes, especially when you get to the point of married with kids and all that bullshit, it feels like you live a double life.
Totally.
100%.
Like, it's 2 completely different I mean, and drastically different. Like when I'm home, I go to bed at like I would be in bed right now.
Same.
When I'm gone, I might not go to bed till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not
Easy.
It just not because even out partying or doing anything. It's just the routine of the day keeps you. You know, it's just so different. It's
Yeah.
it's
And
crazy.
especially there's the post show adrenaline. I mean, I don't
That too.
I don't drink anymore, and I'll be on the road, and I'll go to bed. I'll be falling asleep at like 3, 4 a.m.
Yep.
But I've
Easy. Just
and
waiting
it's
for the come down from the show. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I come home and I'm like, but I mean, once I'm settled in, like now, I mean, I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yep.
that adjustment's weird, and it, I guess, I mean, to that is that adjustment between the two lives never stops. And I mean, with kids, I can only imagine. My daughter is super easy because she's a dog.
What was it like? Like what led to the not what was it like? What led to the decision to step away from asking?
The overwork, which the work isn't a problem. I'm perfectly happy to go on tour constantly. I mean, I would love to. I'm currently my dream setup is every Friday, Saturday, Sunday I am on the road, and then I'm home Monday through Thursday.
That's every musician's dream.
Yeah,
if they've been doing it for more than a handful of years, that's everybody's dream.
I mean, that's the beautiful thing about the country world is that weekend warrior stuff's real.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Rock will catch up one day, but yeah, I'd very happily play 52 weekends a year, birthdays, Christmas, New Year's, everything. The work thing's not a problem. It's the way we were kept out on the road and the ultimatums. There was one point. Now, keep in mind at this point, there's people have suffered deaths and losses and you know sad things that have happened in their life. Breaks were not allowed. I remember being told once, if you take a few months off to go deal with this, there is not going to be a career to come back to. Like, the band will be done. And so we were just kind of led to believe, and we believed it because we didn't know any better.
Right.
And the problem with that is that we don't have anywhere to put these feelings, and we don't know how to deal with them ourselves. So we were putting them on each other. And it got to a point where I remember being laid in my bunk and just listening for the 100th night. The guys fist fighting in the bus and yelling and screaming at each other and smashing stuff. And I was just like, I don't want to be in this environment anymore. And I think I'd blamed just the entire industry. And really it was just the circumstance realistically, we'd allowed ourselves to be put in, but out of our own naivety, and our own ignorance. But I was like, I don't think I want to do music or anything anymore. Like, I'll find something else. Everyone thought it was I left to do Harlot, and it was nothing to do with it. That was just coincidental timing that I started doing that around the same time. But that environment was just not positive, and it wasn't anyone in the band's fault. That was just kind of our reactions to the situation.
I was actually gonna ask, like, you guys were so like 17, young as hell moving over here. You're like not grown up, so you haven't figured out how to deal with your own emotions yet, let alone how to live in a tiny confined space with other people who are young and haven't figured out how to deal with it. And I was wondering what it was like, what your guys' interband relationships were like at that point, trying to be guys who don't really know each other that well, growing up in a confined space, finding all of this fame together, where I'm sure all of you to some degree, whether consciously or subconsciously, had ego tied to that, and understandably so, at getting as big as you guys were at that age, and then being on top of each other so much. Like, what were the inner band?
Hold on. Then drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Adding that into the equation makes it
100%
drastically different.
I mean, it's a recipe for disaster,
Right.
to be honest.
Yeah, and it got rough towards the end. There was a lot of internal conflict, and I mean, in hindsight, and we've obviously talked about this ad nauseum with each other. And there was when I did come back and start doing stuff with him again, there was no hard feelings. At that point, everyone had figured their shit out.
Sure.
But it was a lot of like, it was rough. There was a lot of aggression, a lot of anger that we didn't have anywhere to place other than each other.
Right.
Because we were locked in a tube.
Brian from Shadows Fall called it a pirate ship, and it blew my mind because it was like you go out there, you
perfect.
never
And you look for the booty, right, Josh?
you never age. You know, it's
No.
like it feels like it's just a pirate ship.
There was someone, and I don't remember who it was to credit them with the quote, but there was some interview I saw one time. There was someone asking about, you know, the maturity of musicians and celebrities of any degree, and the person responded is like, I've always believed that you remain the same age as whenever you get famous.
Sure. Yeah.
You just get locked in right there, and I think that's why child stars have such big, like, notoriously such big issues. And it's like, yeah, you get stunted there, and it
Right.
takes a lot to move past it. And I think, fortunately, I had the blessing of losing all that a couple times, which allowed me to step away from it.
Yeah, a little bit of a reality check.
Yeah, reality checks have been very important.
Yeah. I mean, I think they are for most people if they're willing to accept them as such almost like a wake-up call rather than like you have to be willing to do the work once the reality check happens instead of going into the woe is me type of play. You know what I mean?
It's the ego death without the DMT.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think you appreciate those at this point?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, there's been a lot of changes in my life. The absolute single and most enormous change in my entire life was finding God, which is an insane thing to say because he wasn't lost. But that's been the biggest thing because I do know who said this quote because it was Shia LaBeouf and I saw it on Instagram. And he was like, it sounds all so cliche to say, but even the struggles and any of the bullshit, that is a blessing. And I try and remind myself, especially like during whatever times that people are running around talking shit and being mad at me, because ultimately that means that I've done something that has been so important to people or meant so much to them that they feel so strongly about this thing to be mad at me about it. And that in and of itself, I mean, at some stretch is an incredible gift and an incredible blessing. So I try and be appreciative for it.
That's how I feel about releasing music. Is like, as long as me and the guys in the band are stoked on it, any reaction from the general public, whether good or bad, I feel like is a win. Though
Yeah.
I think what would suck the most is having people be completely indifferent.
Yeah.
That would crush me. I don't want people to not like what I'm doing, but at least they're feeling something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about this a lot lately because I'm sat in meetings for my new albums. I'm talking to a lot of industry people and, you know, talking to labels and different things. And the thing I'm stressing the most to all of them, which I think is something that I kind of knew when I was younger, but I wish I knew the words to put it in, was I don't care. This is going to rub people the wrong way. I don't care what the fans want.
No, you know what? I think that I have said that on here about Ghost Inside stuff too, so I totally understand where you're coming from right now.
Every musician, every actor, every painter, every photographer, every director should feel that way. It's art. I make my art for me. If people love that, that is a wonderful feeling and it's amazing.
Yes.
And if they don't, then it's not for them and that's okay. But I don't make it for them. And I don't think an artist should make it for the fans because then they're not making art, they're making a product.
Yes. I think that is the most genuine way of expressing why anyone should create art of any kind. Yeah,
Make it for yourself. This whole thing's just going to be me repeating much smarter people's profound sentences. But there's a Rick Rubin thing where he was like, if you're not in your favorite band, quit.
I mean, that's also perfect.
If you
100%.
If you don't, and I'm sure there are people who are going to point their fingers right at me with that quote, but yeah, you're supposed to love what you do, and that's kind of my only going. We are not playing fetch for the next hour.
I would allow that to be the soundtrack to the podcast if Josh would. I'm just saying.
What?
Just him playing fetch with his dog.
I'm fine.
She's just learned fetch, and it's cute, but it's annoying.
So we kind of jumped over a little bit, but when you parted ways with Asking, you went and did a separate project. What was that time period like for you?
Oh, that was whatever drinking and drugging I was doing prior to that moment got put under a giant magnifying glass and caught on fire.
Bro.
Because that was where it ended after that. Because
I would see you at festivals backstage. I remember one time in particular, I don't remember where we were. You had no shirt, no shoes, and you were a complete train wreck.
Sounds about right.
Just fully out of control, looking like a tired Jesus.
Yeah, and it kind of same thing as the beginning. It was so encouraged,
Yeah,
and so enabled, and I mean, you know, in the name of accountability, like I should have had the wherewithal to check myself in that, but I at that point in my life, I did not have the mental to do that, and I allowed myself to just be steered into like, cool, you're Motley Crue, there you go.
Was it? Do you feel like it was? Did you use it as a way to like mask whatever feelings you had about leaving Asking, or was it just like you felt like it's what you had to do to be this character that was Danny Worsnop at the time?
More so the second. I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't really feel any grief or remorse or regret about leaving Asking. It felt like the right thing to do, and I still believe it was, because we would have been stuck in that place, and I don't know if we would have made it through it.
Yeah.
But it was definitely always like a giant Band-Aid or coping mechanism or a big old fake smile to put on to cover up whatever was going on inside, even if that inside thing was that, like, I don't feel anything anymore.
Yeah.
So this is how I feel stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any ways of processing the feelings or lack thereof. So it was like, cool, well, we're gonna do what we know is gonna Band-Aid this for now. And yeah, ultimately it makes the problem worse. And
Right. Yeah.
there's the cautionary tale for anyone listening who's encountering that's a Band-Aid on a bullet hole, and it's just gonna keep bleeding.
Today's show is sponsored by Bestronix Pro Audio. Let's be real. Your rig is only as solid as the cables running through it. Whether you're touring the world or building out your dream setup at home, you need quality cables that won't let you down. That's where Bestronix Pro Audio comes in. BTPA specializes in full tour rig builds, custom cabling solutions, and if you're the hands-on DIY type, they've got bulk cable and connectors so you can wire up your own setup exactly how you want it. Everything they make is road-tested, built to last, and trusted by the pros. And because you're part of the Late for Load-In crew, BTPA is giving you 10% off your order. Just use the code LFLI10 at checkout and save on the best cables in the business. So don't let bad cables kill your tone or ruin your set. Hit up btpa.com, lock in that discount, and keep your rig dialed and ready for the road. What's up, Road Crew? We want to take a second to tell you about an awesome program for music professionals called Sight for Sound from the team over at Nevin Eyewear. If you're out on the road, whether you're a touring musician, a crew member, or working at a venue, this is for you. Nevin is offering free prescription eyewear to the people who keep the music world spinning. We're talking high-quality frames, legit prescription lenses, and zero strings attached. Just solid gear to help you see clearly while you're out there doing what you do best.
Nevin was founded by John Strauss, a guy who came up in the metal and hardcore scene, so he knows exactly how tough and thankless this life can be. Sight for Sound is his way of giving back to the scene that shaped him, supporting the people behind the music with something as simple and vital as clear vision. As Chris and I know directly from working in the music industry for the majority of our adult lives, we know there are no benefits or retirement funds, so this support is vital. All you have to do is head over to nevineyewear.com, fill out a quick form, and if you qualify, your new glasses are on the house. That's it.
It's an awesome way to take care of the folks who take care of the music, so go check it out, and hopefully we'll see you out there on the road with perfect vision. We all know that music isn't just sound, it's connection, it's healing, it's everything when you're feeling lost. That's why Late for Load-In is partnering with Heart Support, the nonprofit founded by Jake Lurs of August Burns Red to bring real, free peer support straight to you.
Are you feeling down and need someone to talk to? Just text Late for Load In to 1-512-647-2871 and get connected with someone who understands. Someone who gets how music pulls us through the hardest times. It's totally free, totally judgment free, and 100% about supporting you through the music we love.
And if you're in a good place right now, you can be part of healing the scene. Heart Support is looking for volunteer repliers, fans like you who want to help others through the power of music. You'll be trained to support fellow fans who are struggling and join a community built on connection, mental health, and the music that keeps us going.
And again, if you need support, text Late for Load In to the number 1-512-647-2871. If you want to be support, sign up at heartsupport.com/volunteer. Together, we're making this scene stronger.
Today's episode is brought to you by you, our incredible listeners and patrons over at patreon.com/LFLIpod. By joining, you'll get early access to episodes, exclusive monthly giveaways featuring rare memorabilia from Josh and I's time on the road, and access to our patron-only music review and reaction live streams. But that's not all. You'll also get into the Late for Load In Road Crew Discord, where you can connect with fellow fans, submit guest requests, and drop your questions for the show. The best part? It's just $1 a month. If you love what we're doing and want to help keep the show rolling, head over to patreon.com/LFLIpod and join the road crew today. Now, back to the show.
At what point did that all come to a head and you have to address it, though?
It was around the time I stopped doing Harlot, which wasn't even a conscious decision of stopping doing it. Asking had reached out about me doing a tour because they'd fired their singer and had a tour. And then through that, the drummer of Harlot felt very betrayed. And he thought I was putting Harlot on the back burner to go do Ask Alexandria, which was not the plan at all. And that was kind of the end of Harlot. And after that, I just hit a wall and I was like, I can't live like this anymore. And I put down the drugs. I kept drinking for a multitude of years, but yeah, that was kind of when I walked away from it. And I was like, okay, I wasn't in Asking Alexandria, so I was very much I was alongside them, but butthole.
That was perfect.
I was simultaneously beside them, but in a different room at the same time. So I was like, cool, I'm protecting myself in this. I have to do some growing up and I have to be aware of what's happening.
Okay.
And yeah, that's when I realized I had to do some growing up. But I also, coming back in and the response to me coming back in just reignited that giant ego again.
Right.
Sure.
My
Yeah,
ego
I
is
could
something that
imagine.
I have struggled with and I wrestle with, and I've found ways of keeping myself in check with it, but it's something that like I'm real susceptible to.
Ego's a tough one for musicians.
Yeah.
And I feel like especially for frontmen, because you kind of have to have, this might sound crazy, but like a healthy ego to be able to go on stage and do what you have to do in front of a large crowd of people.
Yeah.
Like I said, especially for a frontman, you are the mouthpiece for all five guys on stage. You are the one directly interfacing with the crowd and the fans, telling them what to do, trying to get them to interact with the music and the song. Like, you have to have a little bit of an ego to be able to be good at that, right?
To be a showman, yeah.
Right. It's like I guess it's a balance of ego and confidence. But it gets hard of like figuring out how to turn that off when you step off stage.
And it's exactly what you said. It's having the healthy ego, because it's a real fine line.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
totally.
And ego and confidence can be a very positive thing in every single aspect of life.
Right.
But that fine line of the second you step into and you're now overconfident and you're a bit egocentric, it's like, okay, now you're screwed.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope for sure.
Yeah.
But what do you think what is that susceptibility? What do you attribute that to?
It's probably something childhood related, but I won't talk to a therapist, so I don't know.
I was because I was just thinking about that while you guys were talking, and I was curious if the fact that you guys moved over here so early and you weren't close with your family and all that stuff maybe played a part in why that fed you so much.
I think I wasn't a popular kid, so I was desperate. All children do, but I desperately craved validation and acceptance.
Yeah, sure.
More acceptance than
Sure.
attention, but it was that's where the acceptance came from. So then it kind of goes to your head. It was like, I'm deserving of all of this, and not because I've worked hard, just because I'm great. And it's you kind of start to believe it, and people are telling you it, and you see a crowd of people just staring at you and
Screaming,
chanting your name, and you're meeting people and they're crying, and it's it'll get to your head real quick. You have to develop those coping mechanisms and suffer continuously and regularly a bit of the ego death, and that's something that I see in my friends with children. It does it because nothing will shut off the rock star quicker than your kid pissing on you.
Amen, brother.
Wiping shit off another human will it'll turn that switch off real fast. So all my friends with children, I get to see it, and it's like, they're on the road, they're the cool rock star guy, and then 2 days later we go for lunch at home, and they've got a backpack with diapers in it,
Right.
and it's like, you're dad now.
The other side of that too is like, I've got 2 kids. I just got home, a couple days ago. I played a show for 40,000 people in Austria. My kids don't give a fuck about that.
they don't give a fuck.
That's not cool.
I'm just
not
their
that cool.
dad, your kids will definitely check you and bring you back down to earth for sure, because they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They don't give a flying fuck.
You know what I mean? Like, they just don't give a shit. So they'll definitely remind you that, hey, you're just a fucking dude. Chill the fuck out.
Yeah. You just rolled around for mom for 5 minutes. Cool your energy, big guy.
5 minutes is being generous, pal.
They can't count that high. It's fine. Don't believe the lie.
So, was that tour that they asked you to, I guess, essentially fill in for? Was that what I guess led to you coming back into the band?
No.
Or was there still some time in between that, even before you were officially back in the band?
There was a little bit after the tour, and I went out and did a little Danny Worsnop run, and I just put my album out, so I was still very much doing that.
Right.
And this is gonna be so distracting for people.
If they're watching, they'll enjoy it.
The ADD people are going. What did it was. And this is how they got me to do the tour in the first place. I'd written a song called Vultures, which later came out. I'd written it years before. And they're like, the band are thinking about recording Vultures. How do you feel about that? And then the guy who told me this knew exactly what he was doing. He was playing me like a fiddle, and I had no idea. He knew I'd hear that and go, no, that's my song. I have to sing that song. And that's exactly what I said. I was like, well, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I would sing it on their album. And he was like, after that tour, we were like, let's go in and record it. Well, then we'll have it. Maybe it'll be on an album, maybe it won't, but we'll do it. So I went in and sang it. And over the course of the next 24 hours, half of that self-titled album had been recorded and written. They already had all of the music, but I wrote and recorded 7 songs in that first day.
Jesus Christ.
Then I needed 3 days off, but that's what got me in. It was going in there. Me and Ben have just something when we get in a studio together. It's just, it happens. And I usually record alone, but just the dynamic of me and Ben making music is, I mean, it's the only person at that point I had ever made music with. So we're locked in.
Do you guys have that thing where you're working on music together and you don't even really have to like use words to speak to each other? You just know what the other person's going to do, and it just comes together?
Yeah. And I mean, it's completely split up. Like, he did all of the music, I did all of the vocal and melody.
Got it.
Up until, I think the first time I wrote a bunch of the music on the first 2 records, but I was the guitarist. I wasn't the singer yet. I knew what he was going to bring to the table. He knew how I worked, so he wrote with me in mind, and I wrote knowing what he was going to kind of piece together already.
Yeah.
So it's just seamless. So me and him getting in the studio and making music together again, it was instantly like, how can we not do this?
Right.
Am I supposed to just do this one when we know that we can do all of this and we have such a good time doing it? What, we're going to not do it?
Right.
Let's do an album. And
see what happens.
Yeah, that's the biggest album the band's ever released.
So it just felt right then.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess on the writing music topic, the band has evolved quite a lot from, the first record to now.
Yeah.
Like, how would you describe where the band is today?
Honestly, I don't know how they're going to feel about this sentence. Lost is too strong because I feel like it'll insinuate something negative, and it's not. But there's an air of confusion, but in a positive way, where it's like we don't know what's next. We've always had an inkling what's next, and with Ben retiring, it's kind of the first time doing it not the way we've always done it.
Right.
So there's a figuring it out phase, which there's an excitement to, because it's that kind of learning and finding the pieces. We've got to figure out what the painting's going to look like.
Right.
We've got all the colors in front of us, and we don't quite know where they're going to go yet. So it's exciting, and it's going to take a minute, and we're all aware of that. But I think a little bit confused, but in a positive way is the best way I can describe where the band's at right now.
So Ben retired from writing and everything, not just the touring side of it.
I mean, there's a very good chance he'll write some stuff on the new album, but yeah, for them, he's just at home doing his thing.
Yeah. All right, well, let's address the elephant in the room. All the scrutiny and shit that you're under currently. Can you explain that from your perspective?
Yeah, I can, and it's easy. I'll preface. I'm going to do two things. Me being self-aware. I have this thing where apparently sometimes I say things and they come across and I word things, or maybe it's just the way my face looks or my tone of voice, and they sound like I'm being shitty and patronizing. And I promise I have
that same problem.
If I say anything and I mean it to be shitty, I'll say it's shitty. So anyone listening going, wow, he's so fucking pretentious. I swear that's not the intention in my heart when I say the stuff. Also, I'll start by saying I feel bad about the show that everyone's upset about. It was Warped Tour DC. I feel bad about it, but not for the reason they want me to be. I feel bad because people were given a very, very, very poor representation of the show, and a very inaccurate one. And that it was completely out of our control. And I feel very bad that they got that, because in reality, it was a really good show. And I was on stage jumping, running around. I don't even run anymore, but I was jumping, running around. I did a couple live screams. I don't scream anymore. It messes my throat up. In my head, I was having an internal conversation with myself, and I literally said to myself, I was like, this is going to shut people up. It didn't. Spoiler alert.
That's got to make all this sting so much more, too.
I was another ego death right there. I was like, they're going to have nothing to complain about. This is great. And then, yeah, clearly people did not share that same sentiment. So the events that led up to that show, the band's front of house sound guy and monitor sound guy both quit before that tour. Still speak to both of them, wonderful people. It wasn't a good fit. They were new the tour before. It wasn't the right pairing. Stop trying to eat me on camera. They're going to know you're bad. You're supposed to behave. There are people watching. You can jump up and eat it. Yeah, they left right before, and there were pieces of equipment of theirs that they took with them. It was theirs. We didn't know about. So we went on, and the show started, and no one can hear anything. In my ears, the entire show, and everyone had click track. That's how we keep in time. I'm going to say some things that are going to be so redundant to half the people listening, but other people might not be aware. So I'm going to go into it. Just click track. That's what we know we're doing. It's a cowbell. It just keeps us in time. I hear that really loud. I hear the kick drum, and I hear my vocal all blaringly loud. Nothing else. So I'm playing guesswork the whole time on whatever else is happening. Everyone else had the exact same thing. And no one could figure out what the problem was. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit. Everyone's running around on stage furious. Sam especially gets very upset with those things. And he has a face where if he's having a good show, he looks like he's mad. So when he is mad about something, it looks like someone just kicked him in the penis. And everyone's been speculating about what they're mad about, and it's they couldn't hear anything. And out front, I guess there was a similar issue. So it wasn't easy to do the show in the first place. I also had a sinus infection, but I'm not going to make excuses the whole time. And then we weren't in control of anything that went to the stream. The show went great considering the hand we were dealt. There were, we'll call it 20,000 people there, and there was a 15-minute encore of people having a wonderful time wanting us to continue playing songs. I thought it was great. Get off, fast forward to the next day, the stream that went out it had live drums, it had my vocal with no processing. I hate to say it, but there are very few singers on this planet that sound good with no processing, because microphones and just a blank DI aren't flattering to anyone.
Well, it's also not what anybody's used to listening to these days.
It's very just there. It's abrasive. Yeah. Now, a big part of that is I'm very dynamic. I get very loud and very quiet. So at some parts, you just hear me and nothing else. Other parts, you can't hear me at all. So that's jarring. And then they hear live drums and nothing else. They couldn't hear live guitars because they weren't on. They don't hear live bass because it wasn't on. They hear backing track guitars, which there are live guitars, but they're background guitars because there's only one guitar player. There are background vocals, aka vocal tracks, vocal backing tracks, not lip syncing, the vocal backing tracks, because no one in the band can sing. Ben did all of that part, and then he's not there. I only have one mouth. There are harmonies, there are lines that overlap, the stuff in the backing tracks. I don't love them, but it was a necessary evil. And they were way too loud. So I understand people hearing it and going like, well, this is bullshit. It's all vocal backing tracks. Not knowing how that stuff works, I would feel the exact same way. So they were just given a very bad representation of the show. And that combined with what I am speculating to be a very lazy camera guy who, while I am running around jumping, being very enthusiastic, he was like, I'm not tracking this. And just waiting till I stood still. He's like, okay, now I'll film him. So it was just a combination of things that just really didn't give the people watching the live stream a positive experience at all. So I feel bad about that, and it's out of our control, but nonetheless, I'm very sorry that they had that experience. Was it the best show of my life? No. The jumping round and running round, I'm not the most athletic person in the world. It tired me out quick. And then doing some live streams, which fucks my throat up. Yeah, that didn't help either. And then not being able to hear anything. It was a recipe for disaster, and did the best I could. But yeah, I think most of the hate, and I'll point out, and people aren't going to be a fan of this, but I out of curiosity went, because this isn't, I'm not losing any sleep over it. I'm not going to be bullied on the internet by people. I'm a grown adult. There was at one point, we were about a week and a half in from this happening, and I counted, assuming that it was, people only posted a negative comment one time, so everyone was a unique person. God, because I just hide them, because my social media isn't a town of village square. There were almost 50. There were almost 50 comments. So there aren't actually that many. It's just very loud. And, it's not cool to read, but I try and look past it. So it's a small minority, but they are upset and loud. And I think a lot of it is people who, they've wanted me or the band to be one way. And I understand why. They love it, and it's a big part of their lives, and they want to recapture that part of their life back through that music. But the reality is I'm not that person, and I'm never going to be, and I don't want to be. And I don't mean for that to be any kind of offense to them, and I always hope people don't take it that way. But I have to be true to myself, and the band has to be true to itself. And we've talked extensively about it since about 2013. And before then, anytime someone was like, the metal band, every single time we'd say, we're just a rock and roll band. Right. We might be louder than other ones, but we're just a rock and roll band. And the band, in 2013, the band made a conscious effort of hey, we're going into the rock space. And people want to turn back the clock on that, but it's never been something that hasn't been happening. And people are upset about that. I think people expected something else from Warped Tour. They expected us to go in and play a bunch of old songs and stuff, but it's not a reality of something that I can reproduce, and I'm capable. I'm 34 now, I'm not 17, and I've suffered multiple big damages to my voice, and there was a period in time where I tried to do that stuff again, and it was just very damaging, and I'm not willing to risk my voice like that. And the guys the guys don't want me to. So this isn't like they're held captive by this. So I understand people's disappointment, but at the same time, this has kind of been a thing for a while. And ultimately, what it comes down, because the band asked me to not talk about any of this at all in any capacity, but I was like, this is bleeding into my personal life and my other businesses. I have to address it.
Sure.
And they did forewarn me even today. James was like, just know, anything and everything you say is going to be taken out of context and they're going to twist it to be mad at you even more. I was like, probably.
Such is the internet.
I know.
Such is the internet.
Time will tell whether this is a good idea or not.
I mean,
but
yeah, I will go ahead and corroborate the live, live feed mix thing being out of your control. Like, there are a couple ways that you can live stream a live performance. The two most common ones are you like give the house audio team multi-tracks, which means you give them a copy of every input that you have going on stage so that they can do their own mix to the live stream, or you can give them a copy of the left and right out of your main console for front of house so that the live stream gets the exact mix that's coming out of the PA. In most cases, taking the live mix out of, or the left-right mix out of your front of house console, in most scenarios, unless you know the person doing the mix for the live stream, is the best option.
Yeah.
Because then your front of house guy has control. However, you don't always get that option, and sometimes you're just told, give us a copy of all of the inputs and our guy's going to mix it. And then at that point, you're fucked. Yeah, like you have no control over what's going on. And in the middle of the show, you definitely can't do anything about it, No. So it's like,
and you also don't know it's happening.
Right. So if they're sending a shitty mix to a live stream, you don't know, and you have no way of controlling that.
Yeah. And I had this discussion with their management and everything else, and I got told it was even being live streamed somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour before walking on stage. And had this been a conversation prior to the event, I'd have gone, absolutely not. I don't trust live streams. I've done enough of them. They're unpredictable, and we have new sound guy, no rehearsals. Like, we don't know what's happening right now.
Right.
And, fast forward, and there was stuff not on. It wasn't sent right, and it didn't work out.
I think the only way to be fair about this is to, try to look at it from the side of people who may have been watching that live stream. And like, I only saw clips.
I saw the whole thing. I watched the whole thing.
I didn't watch any of the stream. I didn't watch any of the stream because I was in Europe. So I just saw the clips that got shared online naturally, like I'm sure most people who are going to be listening to this have. And I guess I could understand if I didn't already go in with the mindset of understanding how live streams work and how they almost never sound great, especially when you don't have control over what's going on. I could understand how somebody watching might listen to it and be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Right. But like I said, I do have the perspective of understanding what's going on there. And I can totally see how what you're saying is exactly what happened. Like, that totally would make total sense to me.
And I mean, listen, then after all this happened, because I during the show, I was like, this is going really well. After all, I was like, the first thing I did was find a stream of it and watch the entire thing. And I wrote out critique notes of the entire thing. And there's always, but there's a bunch that I was like, I fucked that up. That could have been better. I didn't have the power here. I was out of breath here. That wasn't good. So I did the critique of it, but ultimately I was like, I mean, it sounds like shit. I'm very angry about how it sounded, but this doesn't feel like something that is newsworthy.
Sure.
But dude, isn't that every show?
There's always something that goes wrong.
That's what I'm saying. I don't play shows, but like, fuck, man. That's the part of the difference between live and recorded.
Yes.
Recorded, you can go back and fix everything and make it perfect.
Yes.
Live is live.
You get one take, and
you get one take the way through.
Yep.
What happens. It's part of it.
There's also, and the two separate points. There's an inhuman amount of more than people would like to imagine that are legitimately just on stage playing with tracks, and I'm not gonna get into my feelings on them doing that or who it is or anything. So I think a lot of people look at it and say, well, I just saw this band and they were incredible. It was perfect. It's like, it was perfect. Yes.
Right. Right.
Yes, it was.
Right.
There's a reason. And there are also, by the same thing, there are artists out there and you go see them and go, that was there have been people that I have like contacted their sound guy and they're like, hey, are they doing it? And there's some people who are just that good.
Right.
And it's very real. I'm as human as they come, and I have some great days. I've a lot, or sometimes even more bad days, and it's you kind of just got to deal with what you're dealt. We do our best, and people do use backing tracks, and then people apply that to they see a bad show, and it makes that bad show worse. But the other bit with the backing tracks, I'll be the first. I don't hide it. The screams in the show are on backing tracks, and then people are like, oh, he's lip syncing them, and sometimes he's not even trying to lip sync. I'm like, I'm never trying to lip sync it. I have far too much respect for the people I don't like and their intelligence level, and to try and trick them into thinking that's happening. I'm also very aware that if I tried, I'd mess it up. I'd have the microphone not at my mouth when it happens, and it'd be way too obvious. I don't think people are so stupid that they'd believe it. I'm purposely making it obvious because I'm not trying to deceive people. I can't do that anymore. It's a small part of those songs. So it's in there so that it's there. And 90% of the time, I'm doing other stuff with it at the same time. But yeah, this is just a thing I wanted to address so that people were aware of that was my intention with that. It was supposed to read like a respectful thing, and apparently it didn't come across that way, but that was my intention.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely one of the comments I have seen, but that makes sense. And also the live stream having a terrible mix would also make it like that's not going to translate in the proper way if it's not.
No.
And I'll go as far to say that, like, Ghost Inside Plays to a Click, we have tracks and stuff like extra guitar parts because there's only two guitar players. If there's a third or fourth guitar part, well, I'm going to put that in the tracks. Like I can't
be like
play.
that guy from the '80s who had the two mix.
Right.
Michael D'Angelo, was it? Was that his name?
Michelangelo Badio.
Yeah.
But so Jim or Vigil will sing a main vocal melody and I'll sing a harmony, but I also put the harmonies in the track so that the harmonies sound bigger. Now, I always tell our front of house guy to mix that underneath me because the dominant thing that I want people to hear is what the band is actually doing on stage at all times. So and I imagine that's probably what you guys are looking for also, but if somebody's not controlling the mix the way you want, like, it's not going to present the way that you guys
they just
intend it
on.
Right. And he doesn't, he doesn't know the songs probably. He doesn't know when those parts come in and when they aren't there. Like your front of house engineer typically knows when those parts come in, and they sometimes turn them up, turn them down throughout the show. That's what part of a live mix that a lot of people don't understand. And I feel like it's so easy to pass judgment on someone and have an opinion on something that you don't know how it feels to get up there and do that. Whether you're having you had a sinus infection, you could have, your fucking dog could have died. Your mom could be in the hospital, whatever the fuck could be going on, but you got to put all that shit aside and get up there and entertain. And you may have done the best you possibly could have done at that point in time. Those people don't, in my opinion, have no right to say anything. They should be thankful that they got a performance and you did the best you could.
I'll make sure we know that most people are great, and most people, give grace and are courteous. And I mean, even if they don't go, I didn't enjoy that. Life goes on. But there's a small subset of, I don't want to let the lesser human in me take over and get bitter and try and go on offense. But it's just like, there are some people who they just feel very strongly and they want to complain about it on the internet. And maybe it is just like, they're just so passionate about it that lights that fire in them. And there's an air of a compliment within that to where it's like, they do feel that strongly about something I do. But, I don't lose sleep over it. And like I say, I feel bad they had that experience, and I don't like disappointing people. I never want to, and it's never my goal or intention. But Yeah, it just felt a lot like the entire thing was just blown up really big. And maybe it was because it was ignored. Maybe if I had gone on the next day and been like, hey, we couldn't hear anything, the sound was terrible, I agree, it would have minimized the whole thing. But at the time, it was like, I'm not justifying this with a response. And maybe it was or wasn't the best decision.
The other side of it too is like, and I'm even thinking this right now as we're having this conversation, is like a lot of anything you say or do is gonna be perceived by these same people that are mad about it as like, oh, he's just making excuses.
Yeah.
You know, like no one's gonna take anything seriously unless they want to. And these like people who have just decided to feel how they feel about it, are just it doesn't matter. So I don't think there's any way for you to like necessarily handle it any different, you know, other than
I think that's what James was trying to say. No matter what you say, that somebody's going to twist it.
yeah.
Since the beginning, he's been like, just ignore it. He's like, I'm not engaging with them. No one's engaging with it. There was a comment Sam had made where he was apologizing, and people took that and ran.
Oh yeah, I saw some people run their mouths about that.
Sam hit me up right away and was like, hey, this blew. I didn't think that would do that. It's like, I was not talking about you. Like, that was like, this thing sounded like shit, and I was apologizing because I felt bad. I was like, hey, do you want to tell everyone else that, please?
You know how you could clear that up right away.
Yeah, this feels like an easy fix, but I mean,
right.
I don't feel any way of this isn't a critique of them at all. They were all just like, I don't want to engage or respond at all. Just to ignore it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is the best thing, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
But other times they keep on and keep on and keep on until you respond, and sometimes responding is the right thing, and other times
I was fine letting it just be ignored, just until it started bleeding into personal life a little bit, and it's like, okay, we're pumping the brakes here because we're going from like, you were disappointed, even if you feel completely like betrayed and ripped off by a show. It's a fucking show. Let's not bring this into people's personal lives.
Well,
Right.
I wanted to say, so if you remove the ego and Danny Worsnop from Asking Alexandria, right? Take that all away. What is reading this stuff and seeing this stuff as Danny Worsnop, the human being? How does that feel? Does it bother you?
It, as of very recently, has not bothered me, but up until very recently, like during this recently, up until then, it would bother me a lot, and I'd try and stay away from the internet as much as possible. I'm fortunate where I have people who, you know, handle a good portion of the internet and social media stuff for me. Mostly so that I can get away from it and, you know, have time to live a life. But, you know, I'll find myself going into the comment section every once in a while, and I'll beat myself up real hard.
It's probably hard not to. I mean, you know it's there, so.
And it's I have to catch myself and check myself, because the biggest problem with it isn't even how much the negative stuff gets to me. It's what it does to the human condition, where I find myself getting to the point where it's all I'm looking for, and I'm scrolling. Yeah. I remember someone online pointing it out once, because I used to engage with people, and I'd sit and argue in comments all day, and people would be like, you know, if you spent half as much attention talking to the people who are the fans and who are engaging with you and enjoy your shit, if you spent half the amount of attention on them as you do on the negative shit, it'd probably be pretty big for your career. And I was like, that's a very good point. It was like, but you get in that hole and you're reading the negative stuff, and then you're scrolling past all the nice stuff. You scroll past 100 nice comments for the mean one, and you're like, I'm terrible. Everyone hates me.
I don't know why the negative shit's always so much louder than the positive. Even when the positive far outweighs it, the negative for some reason resonates harder.
Because I feel like it triggers this inner thought that we have about ourselves that's like, somebody caught me. They figured
the
out that
imposter syndrome thing.
Right.
Yeah.
They see the real me. I'm fucked. I better fucking tell them they're wrong, you know, before everybody else catches on. Like, I fully get that.
I just wish that people who live and stand behind this cancel culture bullshit I wish they could think about what it would feel like if it was them on the other side of it, and they were the ones getting just fucking chewed up and spit out, and then this person got X amount of clicks on there, so now I'm gonna talk shit about something I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking shit about.
Yeah.
Just to get that reaction, and it just becomes a cycle of negativity, and I wish that they could see that and understand what it does to people and certain people's careers. Like you've seen bands break up over this type of shit.
Yeah.
You know, like it really does have an impact. And I almost wish that someone could do like a fucking YouTube short series where they just go out and interview some of these people and ask them like, hey, what exactly are you trying to accomplish with this? Like, what is the end goal for you? Do you want Danny literally to quit Asking Alexandria? Do you want Asking Alexandria to kick him out? Like, what is the end goal for you? What are you trying to accomplish here?
Well, and even beyond that, it's like, and then what?
And then what?
I think it's easy to sit on the outside, and you're watching this person through a screen or from a stage, and it removes the human from it. And I mean, I've developed relatively thick skin because I've dealt with this for years. I mean, this isn't a new scenario being shit on the internet.
Right.
But it's, there are a lot of people. I've known a lot of very talented musicians who they've just walked away completely because it's too much and it's shitty. And I mean, I'm fortunate to have a wonderful girlfriend who has my back, and she's been sucked into it where she's responded to people. And there was one guy in particular, and she'd done a little deep dive because he was just repeatedly, like, everything was just really negative stuff about me. And she'd gone on his page. It's him posting about, all the mental health struggles, and he's a mental health advocate, and these challenges in his life. And then she'd gone in and said something about him, and he was like, whoa, that's not cool, making it personal. Like, people have mental health. And she's like, what do you think this does to him?
That's what I'm saying.
Why is that removed? And like, but by no means am I I'm in any kind of mental anguish over it, because I've recently figured out how to balance that in my head and kind of see it as, in a way, a gift, and try and see other people's perspective. Like, they probably in their heart don't mean the effect that they're unknowingly having, but it'd be an interesting kind of experiment to talk to those people and be like, did you mean for this to be like detrimental to my heart and to my mind and to my emotions? Like, is that your intention with it? Like, well, no, it's this. It's like, okay, well, maybe your choice of words and the way you're attacking this isn't coming across how you're intending it to come across, because right now it's coming across like you are just trying to be cruel and to damage my life and my livelihood, and by extension, like, my family's livelihood and their lives, and to potentially, it's an insane thing to me to be like, I don't like your art, you should stop making it.
Yeah, I feel like social media has completely stunted our ability to express our thoughts and opinions in any way other than attacking people.
Yeah.
Nobody is capable of doing it in a coherent, eloquent way.
I think it is. I was talking about this today. I think it's because, and you guys will resonate with this as parents, where they've been taught that it works. And I think it really, really took off and gained its power during the cancel culture thing. Now, listen, I'm not arguing with it at all. There are some terrible people who have been in pretty high positions who absolutely deserve for that to be taken away. But
absolutely.
People have learned and conditioned that if they get loud enough online and abusive enough online, they can take your fucking job away. And now it's become, well, we got most of the shitty people out. We should go do people we don't like now.
Danny had a bad show, so fuck him.
We can get our way during this, and this can definitely come across, and possibly is too aggressive, and is where some of the friction between me and the Asking Alexandria fan base comes from, because I'm not willing to compromise and to appease you like that, because I'm not willing to give you that that power where you get to just come online and bully me or the band into doing what you want, because we do it once, and where does that end?
Right.
This is
It
our,
doesn't.
again, to come full circle, it's like, this is our art, and we'd like for you to like it, but you don't have to. You don't have to keep coming, and we don't want you to come if you don't want. I don't want to take your money for something you don't like. That's insane. That's stealing. I don't want to do that.
Right.
But you know what it is. You keep coming and you don't like it. At some point, you have to take the responsibility on yourself and be like, why am I still engaging? Our purpose there when we walk on stage is to entertain the people who enjoy it, not to change the minds of the people who don't.
100%.
Totally.
And I'd love to walk out to a room and everyone enjoys it. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's an artist in the world who's ever won that particular battle, because there'll always be someone who wishes there was something else. There's always the song they wish they'd played. They didn't play enough of this album. Why did they play this? Why did they play that? Why didn't they play this? And you can't win all of those. There's only so long in a show, and there's only so many songs. And ultimately, as the artist and as the band, it's we curate a show and we curate a set, and that's our gift to you that evening.
Yeah.
I don't have as much involvement in Ask Alexandria in that particular regard. I'm not, this is also a point of contention. I'm not technically in the band. I come in, I don't own any of the business. I don't have like any vote in band or business decisions. They come to me and tell me stuff and ask me stuff sometimes, but for the most part, they decide what they want to do. They let me know. Cool. Let's go do it. And it's the show the band wants to do. I didn't write the Warped Tour set list. Do I think that there's a very, very solid argument for it being all old songs? Yeah, but that isn't what the band is, and the band won't be that. One, I'm not capable of doing it, but also the band doesn't want to turn back time like that. The band's, since the first album, been a band that evolves consistently and is always something different for everyone's personal taste. Better or worse, that's for everyone to individually make their own mind up about. But it's always been a changing thing. I like to think it will always be that way. Maybe one day we find what Ask Alexandria sounds like. But as of right now, it's just wherever we are in our lives at that moment.
Well, that's exactly what I was getting ready to say, is I think that the band's always going to be an evolving thing, because you can only be who you are, and that's always going to be reflected in your art, no matter what.
Yeah.
But the thing is if you put out the same record 7 times in a row,
People get pissed about that too. Yeah.
that's what I'm going to, they're exactly right. They're going to complain, Asking Alexandria to put out the same record over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But if you evolve, they have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So,
and it's the thing is, that's fine. I don't mind people not liking it. It's part of it. It's art. Adele is possibly and probably my favorite artist in the world.
Fantastic.
I could make a greatest hits of hers, of songs I don't fucking like and never want to hear in my life. I don't go in here and complain about it. I just listen to the songs I do like.
Bro, who gives a fuck? Right.
Her next album, I might absolutely hate. That's her art. I'm just not going to listen to that album.
Right.
If she has 4 or 5 in a row that I don't like, I'll just be like, well, cool. They're my albums. I'm going to listen to those ones. I probably won't buy Adele tickets.
Right.
I don't think she's doing shows anymore, but.
I think that I may have danced around who the band is at some point on this podcast around a similar topic like this before, but I'll just go ahead and say it now, because I don't think there's anything wrong with this, and I think that even the guys in the band would understand. But Architects put out 3 records that are, like, as far as metalcore goes, like, I think the holy trinity of like the best 3 record run in a row, with like Lost Forever, Lost Together, All Our Guys Have Abandoned Us, and then Holy Hell. Perfect records, all 3 of them in a row. And then the next 2 records after that, and they were like my fucking favorite band for a minute. And the next 2 records, when they put them out, initially I was like, I don't think these are doing it for me. I don't think I connect with these records, and I just didn't listen to them, and that was fine with me. But you know what? Now I fucking love both of those records, both the newest records, more than the older ones. I like totally connect with those now way more than I did when they first came out. And it's like. But you know what I didn't do is I didn't fucking start shitting on them because they fucking put out records that I didn't connect with in that exact moment. You know, it's okay to not like something. It's okay. Anyway, moving on from that one.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that one of the other comments that I did see popping up a bit, that I think it would be real easy for you to just go ahead and maybe quiet some people up and put it to bed, is a lot of people saying that they felt like you don't even care anymore about performing or whatever or asking in general. I mean, I don't get that vibe from you so far in this conversation, but I mean, do you have any feedback on those comments?
Yeah, I don't not understand where some people could potentially get that idea from, and I got more clarity on that after talking to the guys, where they've been like, well, this is probably why. There was definitely a period in time where I was very disconnected from it, and not for it wasn't for any interpersonal reasons. It was just there was a disconnect with me and what the band was doing, and it was largely during, when the band was self-admittedly retiring all those old songs, and it was a tour where it was predominantly that, and it was the last thing on earth I wanted to be doing, because
Sure.
I don't resonate with the songs. Again, I'm not that guy. I can't do the things in those songs, so it was very hard. And I mean, there was definitely personal stuff that I let bleed into the shows, because it's hard to turn that off sometimes, and I get in my own head. But I could definitely see that perspective. I mean, I've also had a history of not being, again, the most athletic person in the world, and I definitely let that get the best of me, and that affected the shows and the performances. So I see it, and but no, just to rest anyone's mind, is we're working on music, and we're still all very friendly, and we all like each other, and have every intention of continuing making music and playing shows and continuing to do this. If there was because there's also a lot of people like, Danny's just in it for the money. I don't know how much these people think there is in doing this, but it's not as much as they're insinuating. And
People have a widely skewed idea of what guys in bands make, for sure.
as a not entirely unsuccessful person, if this was a money play for me, it would be a bad one. And that's not me shitting on the Alexandria business. The band does well, but it's not close to what I think people think it is.
Especially not these days, considering how expensive it is to do fucking anything
So,
as a band anymore.
You were just in Europe, so
Yep.
Europe's the hardest place on earth to go tour right now.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely not a money play, but yeah, I mean, it isn't. I've been kind of shown it, and I've realized it's not lost on me where that idea could come from, but I've made a conscious effort since that being explained to me, and been like, okay, yeah, I see that. I can be better about that.
I mean, I think that also kind of plays into a little bit of what Josh was talking about earlier, where like people don't consider what's going on in your life day to day. Like they saw what they perceive to be maybe an off night, and they just now all of a sudden decide that you don't care anymore. Like that's definitely a crazy crazy position to jump to.
I'll give them the credit of it. Definitely wasn't just one night, but there was
sure. Okay, I'm talking from just a handful of comments I saw, so I don't really know.
And a lot of it, and again to the trying to be self-aware thing, a lot of it was last year. Was it last year? It could be the year before, but it was the year started out with back-to-back tours, and the biggest difference with those was the guys got to go home like 4 times between those back-to-back tours. I was stuck in hotel rooms in different countries by myself for weeks on end between those tours because of logistical things that's not any of the public's business. But I wasn't able to go back. So there were big things happening in my personal life that weren't a lot of fun at all. And I had to try and handle and deal with those situations from the opposite side of the planet, because I am not allowed to go home. Not a legal immigration thing before we speculate. It was nothing like that. But I'm not able to go home. So I'm stuck for, I think it was the first like 18 or 20 weeks of the year was me either being on like a week tour and then 2 weeks sat by myself in a country where I don't know anyone, just sat in a hotel room, living on the opposite of the world time zone, trying to stay in US time zone so I can deal with all the bullshit. And that'll do a number on someone's psyche. But
Absolutely will.
It is the thing of I'm very bad at letting personal life and personal problems bleed into a show. I'm not good at putting them in a box and waiting till I get off stage. And it's something I'm trying to get better at. But yeah, I do understand people's perspective of that. And all I can do is go, it isn't the case. It's not correct.
Yeah.
I love making my music. I love making country music, but also there's a part that people kind of don't consider in that. That's Ask Alexandria has been my entire life since I was 17 years old. You can't just turn that off. There have definitely been points in my life where it would have been much easier on me to be able to turn that off and step away. But it's a part of me, and ultimately I'm not at the point where I'm trying to cut that limb off.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm here because I want to be, and because, more importantly, to the fan and rumor mill perspective, because they want me to be. We've had conversations with, I don't know if they've read something on, maybe it was, my inability to put stuff in the box and let stuff bleed in, where maybe just from their perspective they've been worried. And there's been a couple times where they've sat down and been like, please, like, don't give up on this, like, stay here and like just reassure us that like everything's good. Are we good? Is everything fine? It's like I've definitely let that bleed, and that's on me. But yeah, I'm here and we're doing this because I want to and they want to, and until further notice, which would ultimately become public anyway. That is and is current as of this moment, remaining the case. I mean, we were all on the phone today, and so as of right now, at least for the next how many months of shows have we got left? Like 3 months worth of shows for at least the next 3 months. I'm sorry, Danny, anti-Danny people, but you're stuck with me for at the very least that. Unless they're keeping something from me until then, unfortunately, they still like me.
Fair enough.
All right, let's move on from this unless there's anything else you want to say to Danny fans or Ask Him fans.
No, I got a cool riff I did earlier that people might like. Oh, is this? This might be the wrong tone. That sounds like it could be a heavy thing. Maybe that'll be an Ask Alexandria song. We're still writing, folks.
What excites you most about the music you're making now?
Oh, my music. I think it's just being able to be a storyteller, and I hope this doesn't come off any kind of patronizing way or negative way on the Ask Alexandria side, because that definitely isn't my intention or my feeling. It's being able to just make my music my way and tell my story and be me.
Sure.
When you're working in a band, there is compromise in absolutely everything, and not necessarily in an argument compromise kind of way, but it's like everyone has to love this. So you're taking pieces of what everyone loves to make the thing that represents all of you. And when you're making music by yourself, all of that goes away and I just get to be me. Also, my absolutely favorite thing on this entire planet that doesn't go in my mouth, food, is sitting with an acoustic guitar, singing sad, slow songs into a microphone. And this allows me to do that. So I'm very excited about it. And there's also, it's a different kind of fulfillment and satisfaction and pride that comes with it. As a new Christian, I understand pride's bad. I'm sorry. But, it's a different kind of pride that comes along with it. That's, I made this by myself.
Yeah, totally.
Like I can sit back and listen to something. I love producing and recording in my studio now. So I get to sit here and make an entire song completely by myself in here, and sit at the end of a day and go, this didn't exist 6 hours ago.
Right.
This didn't exist, and me by myself with my hands and my brain and a little help from God, probably a lot. I've materialized this out of nothing, and I know it isn't a human baby, but it's something that is reminiscent of what I imagine the feeling to be, where it's like, I made this. This is a piece of me. Yeah. And I think there's a part of the ego plays into it with, I actually just wrote a song about this a few days ago with Aaron Gillespie. And
I love him.
I only met him recently. We never crossed paths. Over all the years, we never crossed paths.
And I saw your post.
We started working together, and I absolutely adore that man. But we wrote it, and the bridge of it, when all I think it's something like when I'm dead and gone, and all that's left of me are songs. I hope they're enough to tell you who I am, or who I was, one of the two. And it was such an honest sentiment, where it's like, as musicians we have that, and ultimately one day we will die, and the people who love us will at some point, unfortunately, also die. And the people after that will have never met us before. And there'll just be some stories that were passed down. And after that, the stories won't be there anymore either. And all there'll be left is the things we've created. And we just hope that that tells enough about us that maybe someone at the opposite side of the world somewhere who's never met us and never heard our name before understands us a little bit. And I think that's the thing I love most about doing it. About art in general, but about writing my songs and making the Danny Worsnop music. Because it's just little pieces of me that I get to leave. And maybe it helps people. Maybe someone finds... This is a little bit depressing. And it's something I've only realized after releasing it. When I started writing it, and it's a bunch of acoustic sad songs, it's me complaining, which is my real favorite thing to do. I was like, it's going to be so weird. My entire fan base is going to be like, girls. And I couldn't have been more wrong and more depressed about finding it. It's actually, it is kind of around our age, a little younger, and then older men. And the first thing I thought was like, these songs are all so depressing and about like really struggling with things. And it speaks to kind of the mental health of men who my take on it is maybe they don't have that voice or they feel alone in it. And I was like,
right.
I mean, I don't want to, take a bunch of credit for it and elevate myself in too big of a way, but it's like maybe I'm helping them in some way, and it kind of creates even more of an internal need to do it and more motivation doing it. Cause I'm like, maybe it isn't a stadium full of people, but if some people need this and I get to make it, that is a real gift. And it's something that I want to do forever because that's special.
Yeah, I mean, if, I kind of am of the mindset of like, even if what you're doing helps even a single person in any way, then it's absolutely worth doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome.
I was talking about I met with a potential new publisher today, and we were talking about songs. They're like, "What's your goal? Like, what's your actual plan with all of this?" And it reminded me of an old proverb about a fisherman, and it was a man, and he goes out every morning and he fishes and he catches fish and he takes them home, cooks them for his family. And a businessman goes past him one day and he said, you should scale this. Like if you put in the time and you do this all day and you do it and you collect enough money, you could hire someone else and you bring someone else on and you train them to do it. And then you can expand, and then you could have a full operation on here. You could be sending multiple boats out a day. You could run your whole operation. And you could build this, you could make a lot of money. And the guy goes, and then what? He's like, you could spend your days out here, fishing, spending time with your family. And it's just full circle. And it was funny to me because I do all this and I do all the things I do to ultimately, at the end of the day, sit down with an acoustic guitar and a microphone and sing my songs for people. So it's kind of a roundabout way where it's, you put in all the work to sit and do what you're already doing.
Yep.
And that's ultimately my goal. And I mean, I have the fortunate thing of, Asking Alexandria has been successful. I make a good living off making my music already, and I write songs for other people. And I've got this beverage company. You guys have probably never heard of it. Assassinato Tequila, ladies and gentlemen. Please drink responsibly, enjoy in good company. And that's doing great. And we have a few other things we're working on. So it seems like at some point in the not too distant future, music is going to become a hobby again. And I'm excited for that day. Not that I don't get to do it exactly how I want to do it now, but I think there's a different kind of magic when it's like, if this doesn't do anything, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, when you're doing it just for fun, there's zero pressure at all.
Yeah. I'm excited for that's what retirement looks like for me. I'll do exactly what I do now, and I never ever look at what the numbers say.
Yeah,
that is something else to take into consideration too. That a lot of fans don't realize is the amount of pressure that come with writing records with expectation.
Yeah,
and again, I don't do that, so I can't speak to that. However, I know a lot of people who do, and I understand the amount of pressure that comes with following up.
We owe record labels money when we do that. And not only that, we have employees who have children and they need to be fed and they need roofs over their heads. So, I mean, people get upset when I talk about the music being a business and a job, but it is currently. And yes, I make art for myself and I want to love the music, but there is a part of it where it's like, this is still a business and it is a company and it is a job until I can sit and just make music, not promote it, not do marketing campaigns, not shoot a music video unless I want to, which I'll always want to because I'm I'm a movie nerd and I just want to make my own little movies. Until I can do that and not tell you I'm releasing anything and just release whatever I feel like releasing because I like how it sounded. Until then, it is a job because, you know, I still have a mortgage to pay and dogs to feed and employees who have human children to feed. And there's still, the government wants a bunch of money. And
They do.
Those motherfuckers.
Taxation is theft, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, I know fans don't want to hear that it's a job because I think from there they hear it's like you don't want to. Maybe that's also part of like you don't even want to do this. It's just money for you. It's not just money, but it is a part of it, and it's not even just my money. It's the money is needed.
I mean,
if it doesn't, I need to get an actual fucking job.
Right. I feel like it would be disingenuous to pretend like money doesn't play a role in it.
Absolutely.
You know, like,
I mean,
would you have gone and just spent however long you spent in Europe for fun doing these, living on a tour bus, going around playing in the mud and the rain?
Look, I do enjoy.
Yeah, but you
I do
it for
enjoy
a weekend.
it, but yes. Especially
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Nailed it. Yeah, especially like being married, 2 kids. Like, I don't want to be away from home for that long.
You'd go for a week or a weekend, and you'd take them with you, and then you'd go home.
Right.
And you'd take a bunch of days in between there, and you'd go see sights and do the stuff, and you go to restaurants. But like, it is a job. It's a job, and listen, it's a really cool one. And I don't ever want it to come across like I'm unappreciative for the opportunities and the gifts and the blessings that I've been given. But it isn't easy. Getting on stage and singing for people, that's easy.
Right.
The other 23 hours of the day, however, are a giant pain in my ass.
Yeah, totally.
Especially the bits when there's nothing to do.
Oh, yeah.
I explained to people that it could be worse.
Yeah.
We're
not getting shot at.
We're not getting shot at. We're not working at Walmart. We're not getting spit on. We're not getting yelled at. Well, we might be getting spit on and yelled at, but whatever.
Get yelled at.
Yeah. We do have really cool jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, they are jobs.
And it's not whatever people think at home. It isn't like that. Whatever you have in your head, that's not what it's like.
It's not what it's like. It's just not. To move on from music a little bit, you've also dabbled in bits of photography and acting and, other creative outlets. What is that a passion you're hoping to explore more?
Yeah. It's weird because I almost consider myself more a visual artist than I am a musician.
Interesting.
I mean, I love my photography. I don't know how to film things. As soon as stuff starts moving, as a capturer of things, my brain shuts off. But I'm obsessed with movies and film in general. And when I'm making music, I'm rolling the video in my head. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's when I consider myself more a visual artist. Because as I'm making music, I'm seeing it more than I'm listening to it, and I've been working on this thing for a little while. And I don't know if the inbuilt like noise cancel thing in this microphone is going to pick it up, but I've had this thing in my head that's like and all I'm seeing in my head is like a cowboy riding through the desert. The song's kind of been called "Found Jesus at the Crossroad," and it's just that kind of that cliche and not negatively, but overdone image of like meeting the devil at the crossroad. And it's that like a turning moment, and it's the Tenacious D video comes up, but it's the turning it on its head, and it's like that point in your life, and it's this guy, and he's spent his life with the devil, and just at some point there's this fork in the road, and then it appeared, and like I'm just seeing that the whole time as I'm writing, and that's where the songs come from. So the visual side of it's great, and it's why I love photography. The other reason I love photography, and there's one moment that always sticks in my brain. It was one of the most rewarding moments of my entire life, and these people will never know, and I don't know their names. I'll probably never see them again. If I did, I wouldn't know, and they wouldn't know me. I was at a bar in Minneapolis, and I generally am always carrying a camera with me, and we were just there, hanging out with my friends, and across the bar there was this couple, and they were just like, they were loving each other, they were laughing and joking, and there was just this moment, and they kind of got closer and they kissed. And I got the moment of this. I just took a picture of that moment, and they were like, laughing and joking. I just got a series of pictures, and the next day, because we were drinking, I didn't even remember doing it, but so I didn't remember I had them when I woke up the next day. I'm going through my camera, going through like all the pictures of the night, and I found this picture. I'm like, wow, that's really beautiful. I'm gonna try and find these people. So I, through a friend, found someone who works at the bar. And I was like, hey, there was this couple in there. I have these pictures. I sent them the Dropbox. I was like, if you happen to see them again, I don't know, maybe they'd like them. It turns out it was their first date, and that was their first kiss, and then now they live together.
Whoa.
Wow.
And they have those pictures up in their house, and it was just this moment that to them would have been just in their heads for the rest of time. And now a stranger has just given them that moment forever, and they can look at it. And it was just this moment. I was like, that's why I love taking pictures of people.
That's incredible.
That's pretty cool, actually.
And it was like, I've done a lot of like fashion stuff and editorial stuff. And listen, taking pictures of pretty people is all well and cool, but that documentary stuff is what I really love. And just being able to give people moments in it, because generally people don't know I'm taking their picture. I did a book called Dark Horse that was asking Alexandria recording the album See What's on the Inside. Yeah, See What's on the Inside. And I shot the whole thing. Yeah, I know. No, we see you. There you go. And I was able to shoot the band in a way that nobody else on the planet could. Because the second you take a camera around those guys, and probably most people, everyone tries to look good.
Yeah.
But they're so used to me being there and having a camera around, they don't even think about it. So I was able to catch these moments of them that no one will ever see unless you were there in the room. And yeah, I want to do more of that, a lot more of that. And I don't know exactly how to expand that as a business model, but yeah, I love taking pictures and kind of taking those pictures of people when they don't know it. And I've taken a lot of pictures of friends, some people who do spend time in front of a camera, some who don't. And I've sent them a picture of themselves from a day or night or something we were doing. And they're just like, wow, I love that picture. Mm-hmm. And they usually hate pictures of themselves. And it's like, that's what you look like. When you're trying to take pictures of yourself and you hate how you look, it's because you're trying to do something that's not you.
Not you, right.
This is what you look like to us.
Right.
That's interesting.
That kind of light in them and just the energy and the smile and the whatever it is going on. You just get to freeze that moment and either have it for yourself or they get to have it from their cell phone.
So since we're all old men here and we've all admitted that we would typically probably be in bed, I'm going to start kind of winding this thing down here. I got one more question, and then we're going to jump into what we call our day sheet round, which is just like a rapid fire question thing.
Well, we have a meet and greet.
We have a meet and greet question?
Yeah, I got 3 questions from a
Okay.
guy.
So before we get to the meet and greet, which is just questions from our Patreon members, I want to know how you balance like public persona Danny and then like private life Danny, and then I also want to know like what you hope your legacy will be, both as an artist and just a human being in general.
I used to not be very good at balancing the two things at all, and then I got pretty good at it, and now I'm trying to be worse than ever, in the sense of I'm trying for there not to be a line there at all. And I'm trying increasingly to just be
private life.
This always. I mean, outside of things I can't say in front of a camera, which are just inappropriate jokes. Outside of that, I mean, Just Contest, this is just who and how I am. I'm trying to lose the character of Danny Worsnop, because I think that's where a lot of these problems come from, is people expect something of me that, yes, I say I'm not that person anymore, but I never was. There was a lot of clever marketing that went into like, kind of, this is what the perception is. This is because labels and managers and everyone, it's like, what's the story?
Right.
What's the hook on this? Which that leads perfectly into the next question, which is this, I think the sell and the hook on what I do now is ultimately it's what do I want my legacy to be and who do I want to be? And ultimately I just want to be known as someone who just made honest music that was just a little piece of himself. I think I've been an idiot for so long and said and done so many questionable things, but in the grand scheme of things, I want to help people with what I do, but I just want to make my art and put it out into the world and hope that Some people enjoy it. And then I want to come home and I want to hang out with the dogs and have one or multiple babies and give them a good life and hopefully raise them to be good people. Make the world a little better, even if that's just via a couple souls that I meet along the way.
Yep.
I want to know and understand God in this world we're living in and get to know myself as well as possible and be a good person and maybe help a couple other people be better along the way. That's all I hope for.
Fair enough.
And I want an old truck. I want a new old truck. I've never bought a pickup truck because I thought it was a bit posery. I've always loved them, but I was like, I've nothing to put in it. Someone's going to see this after I've had it for 2 years and wonder why there's no scratches in the bed. But I'm increasingly having more things to put in a truck bed, and I don't have one.
Buddy, you make country music. You're allowed to have a truck.
Right?
A grown man has to have a truck.
That's what I'm saying. I'm looking at
They have to.
I want an old 250, but there's a really cool K10 that's for sale right now that I'm looking at. I've driven a Range Rover. Life's hard. I've driven a Range Rover the last few years. Feel sorry for me. Remember,
Yeah, I do.
I'm being bullied on the internet. So I'm trying to get rid of that because I'm like, I feel like a lot of my life has been spent trying to get away from the start. Because you grow up in a small little farm town and you go, I'm going to move to the big city and I'm going to get fancy. And then you make something that's like, I'm going to be real fancy now. I'm going to buy a big black house in Nashville. I'm going to get a Range Rover. I'm going to live in Beverly Hills for a while. And then I reached the point where I was like,
I'm going to move to Pensacola, Florida and have a truck.
yeah, I was like, I actually don't want I want fancy studio stuff, but all of it's old. And I don't want fancy stuff. I just want stuff I think is cool. And most of that comes with an engine. But yeah, I want to simplify life down a lot and just purely do things that bring me joy and make me happy. And I know we can't have that all the time, but
Right.
I want to have it as much as possible and maybe make other people happy.
All right, moving on. I'm going to move on to the meet and greet. It's from Super Cool Fun Guy 69.
Oh, what is he, a mushroom or just a fun guy? But just continue.
Hey, Danny, long time, not so much of a fan here, but two-part question.
What?
Listen, part of me hopes that is relevant in the question because otherwise that was just very unnecessary.
If you were to ride horses, how would you ride them?
Okay, so that leads me to a really good joke I wrote a couple of days ago. I did grow up riding horses, so I ride horses, and I do know how. I think he's insinuating, do I do it English? I was talking to my sister, not blood related, but she has a bunch of horses, and she was talking about her friend who rides horses, and she goes, she rides English, and I just said, what, like with beans? Which was a really, really good joke.
A full English? Yeah, there you go.
No, I ride the America way. I don't know what the name for it is, but I ride horse the normal way.
Okay. Second, what's the best tequila you've ever had?
Patron. No, it's Asesinato tequila. My favorite being the Reposado. Like I said, I don't drink anymore. I am a judge in a tequila, in a liquor competition called the Ascots. I sip it, I spit it out. And
Do you?
I do, and I sample our stuff. I'm not like, contrary to popular belief, and for as much as I did drink, I was never like an alcoholic. I used it wrong, but I never had like a problem. I've quit drinking twice in my life now, and both times I've been like, I don't feel like doing this anymore, and I just stop. I'm very bad for addicts to talk to, because I did drugs the same way. I was just like, this isn't for me anymore, and I just never did it again. But yeah, our tequila's great, and I've sampled it many times and still do and still will, but I don't drink it. But yeah, the Asesinato tequila, amazing. They're all great. Reposado is my baby. Initially, that's the only one I wanted to make. The other ones just came about because they were good. Man of good taste.
All right, and then his last part of his question is, how great is that Corey guy's butt in person?
I wonder who asked this.
Super Cool Fun Guy 69 was Corey.
Hence the not fan bit. I actually just sold the rights of it today, and I told him earlier, I sold it to Warner today. So I think Luke Combs is taking it first. He was hoping for Hardy, but I was like, he's on the short list, but he's not first.
No, okay.
But his butt in person, it's a mess. That thing's a train wreck.
Jesus Christ.
You ever seen a car crash?
I've been in one.
But like in the mud. Wait, hey, just fun tidbit information.
I've been in one.
I know what you're about to say, and I almost brought it up earlier, but I didn't know.
That was asking Alexandria's tour bus.
It sure was. It sure was.
I thought about bringing it up earlier, but I didn't know how you'd feel about that, so I didn't. It sure was.
That was me on metal sucks going, van flip, van flip.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Crazy.
Oh boy.
Wait, let's reflect on that for a second, because that was a thing for a while. The van flip thing. When fans were jokingly, but let's be real, calling for the death of bands they don't like.
That's
insane.
True. So I guess realistically, if we want to be serious,
this shit right now not so bad.
This shit's been going on for quite some time.
Oh, they just want me to be fired.
Yeah. When you think about it, you're getting off pretty easy.
You're getting off easy, dude.
Yeah. Jeez.
And for people who don't know that Chris was in a bus accident, and the bus belonged to Asking Alexandria, which is Danny's band.
Yeah. Yep, that's all factual stuff that was just spoken.
All right.
They ruined our studio bus.
My bad,
they
man.
Sure did.
My bad. It wasn't. I didn't mean to do it.
Yeah. It was gross. There was a leg in there and stuff.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude. Cool. All right, we're gonna jump into the day sheet question. Like I said, this is just rapid fire stuff. I'm gonna throw some questions out. Hit me with the first thing that comes to mind. Favorite Asking Alexandria song to play live?
Moving on.
Okay.
That's a song
tour
title.
story. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It's my favorite Asking song.
I thought you thought he was skipping it.
No. It's my favorite Asking song. Best tour story that you can tell on air.
Ooh, best tour story I can tell. There's so many. I mean, this is 18 years in. There's a lot. This one's a lighthearted one. It comes full circle to something earlier. It probably wouldn't be classified as a best, but it's a fun one considering earlier we talked about only having 3 songs when we did that one show. So that wasn't the only time we didn't have enough songs. We were on a tour and we got a call. We were in, I think we were in California maybe. And we got a call and it was like, hey, Guns N' Roses want you to come open for them. We're like, awesome. When? They're like, tonight.
Oh.
We're like, we're on tour right now. We're across the country. They were like, I don't know how you make this happen, but you got to make it happen. It was in New Jersey. So we figured out get in there and all this stuff. And we went there and they're like, you got to play an hour. If you play 59 minutes, you do not get paid. If you play 61 minutes, you do not get paid. So we get there and, similarly to what we were saying earlier, there's a lot of tracks that are involved in shows now purely because, there's just so much involved in the music. So we were prepared for, I think, like a 45-minute, maybe 50-minute show. So we went up and it was also like, not a Guns N' Roses style tour, and this was early on, so it was a lot of very loud, screamy music that Guns N' Roses fans didn't want to see. So we went up and we played that, and there was a guy in the front row. He wasn't just so disappointed. He was like, he just kept going like, why? And we didn't have enough. We played Final Episode, and then at the end we just played Final Episode 2 more times.
Holy shit.
to hit 60 minutes.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But you did this for Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses, yeah.
That's wild. Cool. Getting a direct call from Guns N' Roses to open a show.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking cool.
I mean, I've been fortunate enough to meet most of them at this point, and most of them are really cool. I don't need to fill in the gaps there.
Yeah, I think everyone can read through the lines there.
Everyone can read through the lines there. But yeah, at the time we didn't know them, so this really came out of nowhere, and we didn't even know we were on their radar. So the coolest part of it was Guns N' Roses know who we are.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then I became friends with Duff, who's an absolute saint of a human being, and I later played a show in LA. They used to do, I don't know if they still do it. It was Camp Freddy, and Slash was my guitarist for an evening, and that was pretty cool.
That's sick.
Oh wow, that is cool.
That's cool. All right, first concert you ever went to?
You want the real answer or the answer that I've told everyone for my entire life?
Both.
Yep, both.
I've always told everyone it's Bon Jovi.
Would be a sick one.
Yeah, it was it might be called It's My Life, but it was that album Have a Nice Day, I think was the album.
Yep.
So it was that record, and which goes back to us being old. That was it. Bon Jovi were releasing new albums that were still old Bon Jovi albums. Yep. And that's the story I have lived and died by when people have asked this. But the real answer, that's the first concert I went to that I wanted to go to and went to as I'm a fan of this. But I got taken to one concert before then because I had a younger sister and I wasn't old enough to stay home by myself. So my first concert technically was the Spice Girls.
Dude, that's also fucking
In England,
sick. Come
though.
on.
That's
Yes, it
really
was.
sick.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah,
I
that's
back that
fucking
hard.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really
Now,
cool.
now, gun to my head, I don't know which one I'd actually go to if like you can only go to one.
Look.
You can
like
go
I
see
said-
you can go see Prime Bon Jovi or Prime Spice Girls right now.
Okay, well, so you saying prime changes it, because I was going to say, if we're talking about modern day, I'm going to see Spice Girls, because look, Bon Jovi, one of my favorite bands of all time. John Bon Jovi, a legend. I can't quite do it these days, and I feel it actually makes me very sad.
I haven't seen anything, and I'm going to keep it that way. Also,
Man.
also, rock fans are going to hate this. Bon Jovi, that's a fucking country band.
These days, yes, absolutely,
Back
for
then,
sure.
back then,
You
that
think
was
so?
yeah. Put that
The country
next to-
band in spandex.
put that next to any country like more rock leaning country band right now. Listen to the way they do their chords, their harmonies, everything. It's like, this is a country band. Steven Tyler always says the same thing about Aerosmith. It's like, this is just a country band with really loud guitars.
I'm
That's
gonna
fair.
go listen to Slippery When Wet, taking that into
Poison was a country
consideration.
band.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, yeah, I guess if you add a little bit of twang to everything, it could be country.
Yeah,
That's true.
Just the way they do their songs, the production, everything. It's
Yeah.
country.
Do you? What is your dream collaboration?
I've kind of done this one already, but I like to do it properly. Anyone who's heard me with my music is going to be so surprised at this. Not at all. I'd love to do one with Stapleton properly. He wrote 2 songs on my last album, but we didn't write like together. And I'd like to do that. I'd like to actually like fully do a song with him.
That would be very cool.
Though our voices may be too
unreal.
close for it to actually be cool, but yeah, Adele, John Mayer,
All of those would be fucking cool.
Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
coffee,
All right.
Fucking what a
That's-
fake
Black Rifle
Englishman.
coffee, baby. Black Rifle coffee, all the way.
Fake Englishman.
Yeah.
He's been here since he was 17. He's American now.
That's true.
Yeah.
What's one thing that is you always have to have in your rider for backstage at a show?
I only have one thing on my rider, and it's not always this brand, but it's like 6 liters of sparkling water.
Okay.
Sometimes I put a lemon on there. That's my entire rider. Well, that's not true. Depending on the rider budget, and if I'm on a bus, I travel with an air fryer, and I'll put 2 pounds of New York strips and 12 eggs on there, and I just cook all my own food.
I back that.
But the only thing I have on my rider consistently is sparkling water.
Fair enough. Guilty pleasure artist or band?
I'll be honest. I don't listen to a whole lot of like traditional music as of late. For the past couple years, all I've really listened to recreationally, and it's the only thing on in my car. I have Christian radio on in my car, and when I'm home, I don't listen to a whole lot of music. I listen to like I'll put like Etta James radio on and just leave that shuffling. Guilty pleasure stuff. Every now and again, I usually work out in silence. I'm a weirdo like that.
How do you do that?
Dude, I don't know. It's like the only peace and quiet my brain has.
My
for some
drum
reason,
tech
when I
does the
walk
same
in-
thing.
When I walk into the gym, for some reason, I have a gym in my house, so I can do it. Because remember, we're feeling bad for me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Fired this guy.
I walk in, and it's the only place I go where there isn't stuff going on.
Sure.
So, it's like the only peace and quiet my brain gets during the day because no one calls me when I'm in there, and so I do the quiet. But if I'm having a bad day, so many people are gonna be like, "Who are you, liar?" If I'm having a bad one, I really need to like get myself up. There's one song by what's the band called? He's a Russian guy. He hits himself in the head with a microphone.
Oh, Slaughter to
Slaughter to
Prevail.
Prevail, yeah.
They have one song. I want to say it might be called Viking, but
Yes, they have a song called Viking.
I'll put that on while I'm warming up, and it'll get me all amped up.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If you weren't doing music, what do you think you would be doing?
I think I would have gone into the military, and then I'd probably be in the private defense sector. I think I'd have always moved into the entrepreneurial space at some point. Photography would have always found me. But I suppose like the best answer for that is I'd be doing whatever I needed to do to play music as a hobby.
All right, last one. Who would play you in a movie about your life?
Kevin Hart. No. Which Which part of my life? I'm doing better now because I'm working hard, eating good, and not drinking. But like a year ago, probably like Chris Pratt, but like Parks and Rec Chris Pratt.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe I'm not there yet, but it's Chris Pratt, but he starts then, and then we get to maybe like 6 months from now, and it's now Chris Pratt.
Right,
Jurassic World.
Right,
Yeah.
or like Marvel Chris Pratt, yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
maybe it might be me being overly generous to myself in casting because he's very likable, which but people watch the movie and go, wow, that Danny guy seemed like he was probably really cool and people loved him.
Everybody must love this guy.
Yeah. He had Dwayne Johnson play him in a movie. He must have been pretty universally liked with very little controversy around his name.
Yeah, totally.
All right, last question, and then we're gonna let you roll. If you had a 5-minute conversation right now with Danny Worsnop, age 17, just moved to the U.S., what would the message be?
I think about this all the time. I think about it all the time. One of the biggest things, one of the biggest changes I would make, and I would think it was silly at the time because I used to make fun of it. It would be pick a different name. That way you can achieve separation between your personal life and your music. And have some anonymity. Don't do press, because then the mystery is left there and you don't have to deal with the speculation that comes along with it. And the thing is, a lot of this could come out detrimentally because I think our personality and dynamic and that stuff was a large part of what got the band popular in the first place. But it'd be like, keep your personal life and your professional life separate. And it would kind of be similar to what we talked about today, which is like, your art is yours. Do not pay attention to what people want you to do. Don't pay attention to what people expect of you or what's popular. Just make what makes you happy, and it will work out. Because if it makes you happy and you resonate with it, there will be someone in the world that does too. Your audience will find you. You don't get to pick who likes your art. They will find you.
Taking that into consideration, I have one more question.
Oh boy, here we go.
What would your second name have been?
Oh, good one.
I think I actually realized a few weeks ago when it should be. I was sat at a charity baseball thing my friend was playing here in Nashville, and we were sat, and I don't know why it came to me. What was it? It was, I want to say it was like Robbie something. My middle name's Robert, and I think it was Robbie something. What did I think the last one should be? I don't remember.
It'll come to you.
It'll come to you. You can drop it in. Fuck. It was good too, because it was just a normal name, and it was like that'll work. Because the other thing about changing your name is I have a stupid last name and no one knows how to say or spell it.
What? Okay, I have one more question.
Jesus Christ!
Sorry. Because people have fucked
He's
up
had
my
20
last
years
name.
to ask these.
Yeah. People have fucked up my last name for my whole life too. Give me a couple examples of some last names they called out.
Usually they mix a P and a T up, so they'll go Worsnop. Or the spelling, it's usually the spelling, and they go W-A-R. Yeah, I never really understand it, because anytime I'm talking to someone about, like, with my name, like, someone on the phone or something, I spell it phonetically. So I don't get it. It's like Whiskey, Oscar, Romeo, Sierra, Nevada, Oscar, Papa. And then they get it wrong. I'm like, I don't know at which point you messed this up. So you can't talk to stupid sometimes.
No, you definitely can't.
Well,
all right. Well, listen. Thanks for the time. No. Now I wish I had one more. I don't.
But on that note, Danny, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us, and being willing to be open and dive into some of this shit and just kind of clear the air.
You got it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Hey everyone, Chris here, and I just wanted to take a second to say thanks for watching today's episode. You can check out more episodes of Late for Load-In on the right side of your screen and find any applicable links to this episode in the description down below. There you'll also find a link to our Patreon, which is the most direct way to support the show, and it's only $1 a month. Please consider giving this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to follow us on all social platforms, at Late for Load-In, at Chris_TGI, at Josh Carell. See you guys next week.